Chapter 197, Small Mountain Village. 10 days later, Jianchen could finally leave his bed and stand on the ground. Looking down to observe the clothing he had been wearing, he noticed that this had to be what Roscoe normally wore, as it was rather big on Jianchen. Taking out a new set of clothing from within his space belt, he removed Roscoe's old clothing and immediately put on the new set. Then, with a dumbfounded expression, he had finally realized something had happened to his skin. His normally pale skin was no longer white anymore. It had once more turned a red colored like when the 1000 immunity had first advanced a step. It was a strange sight to behold. Seeing the color of his skin, Jianchen was still for a moment. With such a strange sight like this, even after experiencing it once for a brief moment, Jianchen was still confused. After that, Jianchen shook himself awake and thought about all relevant information he had obtained. The anti-venom from the silver-striped golden snake should only turn my skin red again for a moment after it finally fuses together. Could it be that while I was resting for these 10 days, the 1000 immunity finally reached a perfected state? Jianchen thought to himself with some happiness. From the time he had absorbed the anti-venom from the blood of the silver-striped golden snake until now, a year had passed. His 1000 immunity had finally reached a perfected state. Right now was the moment he could finally say he had the 1000 immunity. From this moment on, I no longer have to fear any other venomous toxin I might come across as long as it doesn't outrank the silver-striped golden snake in toxicity. Jianchen thought happily. Throughout the entire area of the Tianyuan continent, the toxin of the silver-striped golden snake could be regarded as one of the most poisonous. Everyone knew how toxic it was in nature, and there weren't many other toxins that could beat it and thus were even rarer to come across. According to the books, after reaching a perfected state, the 1000 immunity will turn the skin red for a month before returning back to its original skin color. But the books didn't say that my skin would become this red. Jianchen muttered to himself. It was a shame that he didn't have a mirror, otherwise he would have been able to see how red his face had become. After changing into a new set of clothes from his space belt, Jianchen folded the clothes from Roscoe and placed them on the side of the bed before walking out. With a creaking noise, Jianchen slid open the old-fashioned door to see a good amount of sunlight splash into the room, illuminating it decently. At the moment the sun was already at its highest point in the sky, meaning it was noon. Outside the room was a small courtyard that had plenty of cobweb-like cracks running through the dirt ground. Just diagonally across from Jianchen were some wooden houses, and even another run-down shack some distance away. Under the sun, a few young children were running around and laughing while they played. Exiting the wooden house that had housed him for half a month, Jianchen had finally seen what this place looked like. It was a small village by the mountains that had more houses than the eye could see, but the residents themselves could not be seen. Roscoe, today's harvest has been quite good. It's still only afternoon and we've already caught 2 wild beasts. This will be enough to feed our entire village for a few days. Right, it seems we won't need to go hunting tomorrow. We'll be able to eat and be merry for 2 days at the least to relax. If our luck in the future is as good as our fortune today, then our future will surely be quite comfortable. The sounds of 2 people chattering reached Jianchen's ears, who turned to look at the speakers, only to see Roscoe and a few other limber-looking people walking from some distance away. Above the shoulders of 2 men was the carcass of a giant wild beast. Just looking at one of these beasts could show that they weighed 100 kilograms at the very least. At this moment, Roscoe had realized that Jianchen was standing in front of them. With a faraway shout, he greeted him, "Hey, youngster. Have your wounds healed properly enough for you to walk?" Jianchen smiled and said, "This one thanks uncle for his concern. After applying so much good medicine these past few days, my wounds have nearly completely recovered." Roscoe's companions finally looked at Jianchen for a moment before a person smiled. "Roscoe, I've heard that some time ago you saved a man from the river. Could this be the person you saved?" Roscoe nodded his head with a smile. Quickly, the men had all arrived next to Jianchen as Roscoe pointed his finger at Jianchen. "This little brother here is Jianchen. Although his age is quite young, you shouldn't underestimate him at all. His life was almost taken from him, with wounds that serious. I had believed that he would die. I didn't think that just after a few days, he would be standing right in front of us fully healed." This is something even I wouldn't be able to do. Oh, is that right? This little brother here doesn't seem that amazing. Hearing that, the few men all opened their mouths to laugh, but it was all in good nature. Roscoe looked to Jian Chen, little brother, let me introduce you to everyone. This man right here is Fang Yungang, the man here is Qing Liran, and the one there is called Qiu Chujie. Jian Chen smiled as he cupped his hands in a sign of greeting toward these newly introduced men. You've returned? Oh. It would appear your harvests today were quite good to have 2 wild beasts hunted in such a short time. At this, a womanly voice called out from behind as a simple-clothed woman with a rather ordinary-looking face walked out from one of the homes. Little brother, come. Let me introduce you for a moment. Roscoe patted Jian Chen's shoulder as he pointed at the middle-aged woman coming at them. This is my wife, Fang Hui. This one welcomes you, elder sister. Jian Chen greeted her with respect. This was the first time Jian Chen had seen what Roscoe's wife had looked like. Even after half a month of staying in their home, he had only been able to hear what she had sounded like. Fang Hui looked at Jian Chen's face and smiled. What a handsome youth. I've long known about the youth Roscoe rescued, but this is the first time I've actually seen you. I didn't think that you'd be such a handsome youth, but why is your face so red? Ah, that's right. Little brother, for the past few days I've noticed that your face was getting redder and redder. Are you sure you're all right? Have your injuries given you some sort of illness? Roscoe asked with concern. Don't worry, uncle. This must be the after effects of the medicine I used. I'll be fine. Jian Chen waved off Roscoe's concern. Ah, that's good then. Roscoe calmed himself before continuing to speak. Now's about the time to eat. Little brother, since you've healed up nicely, why don't you come eat with us? Chapter 198, A Promotion in Strength. Within a nicely cleaned wooden house, Jian Chen sat with Roscoe's family around a wooden table to eat lunch. The food was rather simple, a few plates of vegetables and a big plate of wild beast meat. Roscoe had a family of 4, him, his wife and their 2 children, who were both around 10 years old. At the dining table, Roscoe and his wife continued to chat with Jian Chen, while never mentioning the topic of how Jian Chen came to be injured. Instead, they only talked about what interesting events had occurred within the Tianyuan continent. The continent was relatively dangerous. Roscoe's wife Fang Hui had grown up in the village and never once left it. Despite once being a mercenary, when his saint weapon had been shattered turning him into a cripple, Roscoe had lived in seclusion in this village for the rest of his life. From that moment, he had never ventured outside the village and so never heard anything new about the outside world. Jian Chen had only traveled the Tianyuan continent for 1 or 2 years, and he had mainly lived in the more isolated cities and towns. However, he was able to answer the majority of the questions Roscoe and his wife had while also managing to answer the occasional questions from the children. After the meal, Roscoe led Jian Chen around the village for a small tour to introduce him to the village people and get familiarized with the history of the village. This village was once called the Huang village with a history of over 100 years. 100 years ago, a family with the surname of Huang established this village with only a few settlers. Even though it had around 100 years to develop itself, it had never gone beyond 30 families. The total population remained around 100 people, and aside from the elderly, children, and the wives, there were only around 30 to 40 strong, robust men. This village had worked to survive by farming the lands, while occasionally a strong young man would hunt in the forests to kill a few wild beasts or fish for food in the river. Other than that, the village would isolate itself from the outside affairs of the world. In a single afternoon, Roscoe had led Jian Chen around the entire village and introduced him to almost everyone in the village before calling it a day. At night, Roscoe brought Jian Chen back to the house and the 5 people sat down at the table once more to eat dinner. Like lunch, the dinner was relatively simple with a big bowl of rice and some vegetables. At one point during the dinner, the little boy sitting next to Jian Chen lifted his head and spoke shyly, "Brother Jian Chen, I heard father say that you are really amazing." Listening to her brother speak, the little girl right next to Fang Hui lifted her head as well with her black eyes brimming with curiosity. This little boy was called Roger, and the girl's name was Rogue. These two were the children of Roscoe and Fang Hui. Hearing this, Jian Chen's eyes fell upon the child and laughed. "Little Roger, the outside world is vast and there are many more amazing people than your brother Jian Chen. When you grow older and stronger, Roger, you should head out to the outside world and see it for yourself." Then brother Jian Chen, against daddy, who is stronger? Hearing Jian Chen's answer, Roscoe's daughter Rogue couldn't help but ask with curiosity. Roscoe began to laugh before turning to look at his daughter. "Rogue, don't look down on brother Jian Chen. Although he is much younger than your father, he is much more amazing than me." Roscoe's wife, Fang Hui, suddenly gained a shine in her eyes as she said, "Ah, Jian Chen, if you don't mind our impoverished lives here, why don't you live here with us? The Tianyuan continent is dangerous, but the village here is very peaceful and safe. One of these days, I can even help introduce you to a pretty lady in the following village." Jian Chen gave a small smile as he thought about Fang Hui's words with a secretive thought of disapproval. "This one thanks elder sister's idea, but I still have things to do in the outside world. So for that reason, this one won't stay here longer than necessary," he replied with a bitter smile. "That's fine, every young man has things they need to do. For a youngster like Jian Chen, they should travel the continent a little longer and enjoy the world, don't walk blindly in an area like this." Roscoe spoke to Jian Chen. He had traveled the world as a mercenary himself, so he knew how Jian Chen felt about this idea. Fang Hui glared at Roscoe with a disappointed look. In her mind, if she could find a nice lady to have Jian Chen married to, he would stay behind in this village and thus help the other men of the village go hunting. This way, a healthy harvest would be guaranteed. After dinner, Jian Chen returned to his little room to rest for the day. This room was originally intended to store away junk, but with Jian Chen occupying the room temporarily, Roscoe had cleaned out the room. For the sake of letting Jian Chen rest, Roscoe had placed a bed in it. Closing the door to his room, Jian Chen sat cross-legged on his bed and took out a few Class 3 monster cores from within his space belt to cultivate. Before the half-month of rest, Jian Chen had done his best to remove any of the hidden dangers in his body. After that, he was now once again free to try to improve his strength without needing to worry about increasing his strength far too fast or that the berserk elements from the monster cores adding to the hidden dangers. Jian Chen continued to absorb the energy from within the monster cores at a terrifying speed. The moment it entered his body, the berserk elements within the energy stream were immediately absorbed into the cyan and purple glows within his dantian along with a good amount of the energy. Perhaps it was because Jian Chen was taking the energy within the monster core at an even faster and more efficient rate than before, but the dantian was also absorbing the energy at a larger rate than before as well. At the current moment, Jian Chen could take in about 10 to 20% of the total energy within the monster core, compared to the past 1% when he was a regular saint. Right now, Jian Chen urgently wanted to improve his strength so that it would reach that of the great Saint Master level. For the next couple of days, Jian Chen didn't leave his room and continued to cultivate. Though he would leave to eat meals every 2 or 3 days with the family, since he was a Saint Master now he didn't need to eat every day like the average person. Chapter 199, Another breakthrough in the blink of an eye. Jian Chen had spent at least an entire month in Huang village. In that month, Jian Chen had rarely walked out from his room, choosing to spend the entire day within his room to cultivate in peace. Every 2 or 3 days, sometimes every 4 days, he would eat some meals with the family. But other than that, he remained indoors and after finishing his meal, he continued his cultivation. Heading out into the village itself was even more rare. After spending half of the month in cultivation, Jian Chen's Saint Force had been readily increasing in strength at the expense of going through multiple monster cores quickly. However, he still had an ample sum of Class 3 and 4 monster cores along with the monster cores from the space belts of the great Saint Masters he killed back in Phoenix City. With so many monster cores, he wasn't afraid of running out of them. There were still 2 Class 5 monster cores within his space ring as well, which were better than over 100 Class 4 monster cores. This large amount of monster cores would definitely help bring him to the great Saint Master realm. Right now, Jian Chen was at the very peak of the peak Saint Master level. The only thing preventing him from making it to the great Saint Master level was a frail boundary. At this final juncture, Jian Chen didn't dare to stop cultivating. Opening his eyelids, there was a calm look in his eyes with only a small tint of emotions. It would only take another month before he could break through. It was a shame that the hidden dangers in his body before had delayed his breakthrough. As soon as he broke through to the Great Saint Master level, taking revenge on the Tianxiong clan in Wake City would be possible. Taking in a deep breath, Jianshan calmed his body and took out another dozen Class 4 monster cores from within his space belt and placed them between his legs for his cultivation needs. Because he was at a critical point before the breakthrough, the amount of energy he needed was absolutely massive. At the same time, he wouldn't have time to constantly take out monster core by monster core from his space belt, so he would need to have a large amount of them on hand. With all preparations done, Jianshan held a Class 4 monster core in each of his hands as he closed his eyes and entered a state of meditation. Closing his eyes, another day again passed for Jianshan. The next afternoon, Roscoe sat with his wife and children at the table eating lunch. This Jianshan is far too hard working at his cultivation. It has been half a month already, and he only comes out every 3 days or so to eat a meal. I don't know how he has managed to endure this, but it's been 4 days this time and he hasn't stepped out of his room even once. I'm worried he worked himself into an illness. Fang Hui looked at the closed door to Jian Chen's room with a look of worry on her face. Roscoe laughed at her words. Fang Air, you've never come into contact with Saint Force, but it is an incredible yet mysterious force. Jian Chen is at the very least 100 times more hard-working than me, but he still won't work himself into an illness. As for not eating, that doesn't need to be said either. On the Tianyuan continent, the stronger experts could go 10 days without eating a meal with no problem. I myself would occasionally go without a meal with my comrades for 5 days and still be able to fend off the bandits with the ferocity of a dragon and the vitality of a tiger. Fang Hui stuck her nose up in disdain. You are you, and Jian Chen is Jian Chen. Don't forget that time was when you were 30 years old. Jian Chen is only a 20-year-old youth with a physically weaker body. In what way can his body compare to your stature at that time? Roscoe let out a sigh and replied, Fang Air, you've never walked the continent, so you won't know how this works. Let me explain this to you. A person's strength is not determined by how old a person is. A few men with talent but no hard work could condense their saint force into a saint weapon after a lifetime, and a few men with the talent and even the resources may never be able to reach a high level. Take our Huang village for example. After over 100 years, the strongest person in the village has only been a great saint at the most. Many of the academies within the Tianyuan continent have standards in which a great saint is the minimal level for graduation at the very least. There's even many men that aren't even at the age of 30 that have the same level of strength as our village head. Fang Hui nodded her head as if she understood. Although what you say seems right, Jian Chen's strength can't be said for certain, he is still far too young. Just as Roscoe was about to open his mouth to explain once more to Fang Hui, a strong gale suddenly flew out from Jian Chen's room, causing dirt to fly everywhere, including the food on the table. Crap, how could there suddenly be a large gust of wind? Roscoe cried out before bounding to the door to close it. Woo! Woo, Dad, Mom, my eyes has dirt in it, I can't see. Rogue buried her face in her hands and began to cry out with tears. Fang Hui hurried on over to where Rogue was and began to comfort her. Hush, don't cry, your mother is here. Let mother help you clean out your eyes, open them slowly for me. Roscoe looked back to the table where all of the dishes were now filled with dirt with some confusion before speaking seriously to his family. You should all stay here, I'll go and check. This gale was far too sudden, this must be an omen for danger. Rapidly opening and closing the door, Roscoe headed out. Outside, the sudden gale had caused trouble everywhere. Dust flew around the sky and covered it so that the fierce sun above it could barely shine down below with the exception of a few weak rays of light. Some of the clothes that were hung outside to dry had been sent flying into the air and fluttered away. Even the tiles on the roofs had been lifted by a small degree while some of the older huts had been completely demolished by the gale. What happened? Why was there a great gale all of a sudden? What a strange wind this was, to come so suddenly and yet so fiercely. From a distance, the Huang village men were all coming out of their houses with confusion. Roscoe looked around before his eyes landed upon the little room Jian Chen was cultivating in. His eyes narrowed as he realized that the dust had all blown out from the direction of his room. After traveling the continent for many years, Roscoe had learned to deduce things quickly thanks to his experience as a Saint Master. His eyes grew wider as he began to think about what could have caused the gale of wind. Could this be the result of Jian Chen's cultivation? The thought of that had caused Roscoe's heart to waver. He knew what could have possibly happened to bring about such a result. 10 years ago when he was a Saint Master, he had experienced this before on a smaller scale. He couldn't believe that Jian Chen would have long since surpassed him in such a way. What a mistake in judgment, to think that such a youngster would be far past the Saint Master realm. He has to be at the great Saint Master realm by now. Roscoe thought. Even though he was a cripple, his experience was far more than enough to understand what Jian Chen had just done. Look everyone, the wind's coming from that direction. An elderly voice called out as everyone looked at the direction of the finger the elder was pointing at. Hearing this, everyone studied the direction that had been pointed out before realizing it was the house of Jian Chen. The village elder is right, the wind is coming from that direction. Just look, the smoke is spreading out from over there. Let's go quickly then. Right, let's find out what's happening. In the end, a group of people had headed toward the area of Jian Chen's room. Instantly realizing what was happening, Roscoe hurried forward to block them. Village elder, it's best if we go elsewhere for now to avoid disturbing Jian Chen. Roscoe, just what exactly is going on here? I can see that this gale is coming from here. The village elder asked Roscoe with some confusion. His elderly face was filled with a serious expression. That's right. Roscoe, just what is happening within that room? Are you hiding some sort of treasure? The village elder asked once more. Right, Roscoe, you best be honest here. If you have a treasure, you should show it to the rest of us. Hurry up and let everyone see this treasure. I've never seen anything that could cause such a wind. As each person joined in, everyone else wanted to look at what treasure was hidden within the room. Their voices each crying out over one another. Shoo, everyone be quiet. Roscoe couldn't help but to try to quiet them down. Please, don't misunderstand me, everyone. I don't have any sort of treasure hidden away. This is the result of that youth Jian Chen's cultivation. This was something I came to understand after my experience of being a traveler of the Tianyuan continent. This has to be the result of Jian Chen's cultivation almost reaching a breakthrough. This current moment has to be the most critical point, so if he is disturbed, then a disastrous result might happen for Jian Chen. Come now, let's all walk away from this area so we won't disturb Jian Chen's cultivation. Oh, so it was like that? No way, I've seen that Jian Chen before, but I didn't think him to be that amazing to be able to call down the winds like that. Roscoe, are you trying to trick us? The crowd murmured in confusion. They were people of the village and had never once traveled out to the Tianyuan continent, so many of the people there were very suspicious of Roscoe's attitude. They couldn't believe that a youth like Jian Chen would be capable of having such strength. To them, this was a mystery that deserved some research. The village elder looked at the room Jian Chen resided in with a look of shock before taking in a deep breath. Everyone, what Roscoe said does have some merit. But whether or not his words are true, we'll find out soon enough. Let us wait for now and avoid disturbing Jian Chen. The village elder's words had a very strong weight in everyone's eyes. His words were something many people didn't dare to go against. Silently, everyone began to walk back, no longer walking toward Jian Chen's location. The gale of wind continued to wreak havoc within a smaller range of a few hundred meters, which was still enough to cover the entire village. Everyone backed away another 50 meters and watched for a little longer. After a while, the elderly, children, and women all left and the middle-aged men stayed to observe the mysterious dust storm. Right now, there were about 100 people within Huang village. All of the able-bodied were left observing the area with a strange expression. The sight in front of them wasn't something that would attract attention in the Tianyuan continent usually, but for this village which was cut off from the rest of the world, this was especially strange. Why do I feel like my heart is feeling more and more painful? It's to the point where even breathing has become extremely difficult. An old man suddenly said in confusion as he reached out to massage his chest. Yeah, I also feel like my chest is stuffy, to the point where I'm becoming agitated. Moreover, I feel like I'm carrying something really heavy on my back. A middle-aged man chimed in. Me too. My chest feels so smothered, as if a large rock is exerting pressure on my chest. I can barely breathe. How strange, you guys are feeling this sensation too. I had thought it was only me who was feeling such a symptom. I also have this feeling, me too. Hearing everyone talk, Roscoe's heart skipped a beat. Immediately realizing the situation, he cried out, "Everyone, get away. This is an invisible air that only an extremely strong person can emit. It can majorly affect all surrounding people. Some peak experts are even able to use this air to constrict people's airways and suffocate them to death." Everyone's expressions changed drastically, including the old village chiefs. All of them hurriedly retreated until they were 100 meters away. Although most of them didn't even know what this air was, they had clearly understood one thing: some peak experts could use this air to directly suffocate a person to death. Pung! Just after everyone had retreated 100 meters, a loud sound suddenly rang out. The small wooden house that Jian Shen had been living in instantly shattered into scattered pieces. Then, a human figure broke through the roof, shooting up into the air like a bullet, and reaching a height of over 50 meters in the blink of an eye. Ah! Jian Shen floated about 50 meters in the air, and emitted a long whistle toward the sky. The sound resonated without restraint through the air, crossing over a vast distance. At the same time, powerful Saint Force surged and gathered in his left hand. With a wave, a pure ball of light energy completely formed from Saint Force whizzed out of his hand and off toward the distant ground. Bang! When the ball of light energy crashed into the ground, a large bang resonated through the air, and a great amount of smoke and dust began to rise. Only after it had dissipated were people shocked to discover that a 2 to 3 meter diameter hole around 5 meters deep had formed. The surge of Saint Force once again appeared, in Jian Chen's right hand this time. It quickly condensed into a silver sword that shot out piercing glows as it caught the sunlight, forcing people to look away. This sword seemed to be even more dazzling than the sun. In an instant the silver light flashed and died out. The sword had already pierced through the air as fast as lightning. A sharp amount sword chi along with dazzling light broke away from the sword's bonds, and quickly shot at the empty ground 100 meters off into the distance at lightning-fast speeds. It silently went through the solid rock, leaving only an extremely thin crack on the surface. There were absolutely no signs of cracks in any of the surrounding areas. After this attack pierced through, Jian Chen's body began to slowly descend to the ground. Although he could jump up 50 meters in a single bound, he was only able to stay floating in midair for a breath's time. Jian Shen landed on the ground with a trace of a faint smile on his face. It was a smile of self-confidence. After cultivating non-stop for over half a month, his strength had smoothly broken through from the peak Saint Master level to the Great Saint Master level. Chapter 200, Misfortune. 100 meters away, every single person within the village looked at Jian Shen with a look of utter shock. A loud cry rang out and spread a few kilometers in every direction as Jian Shen leaped 50 meters into the air before slamming his fist into the ground, causing a huge shockwave. Dirt flew out into the air as the group of villagers all watched this show with a sluggish expression as they tried to comprehend what was happening. It could be said without exaggeration that this display of strength was far beyond the knowledge of anyone here. They were after all people of a village that had never traveled the continent or come across any knowledge of how strong a saint had to be in order to cause such an effect. Even their village elder, who was a great saint, only knew of information from the outside world by word of mouth. To see Jian Shen leap 50 meters into the sky before bringing his fist down to create a 100-meter crater was definitely a first for him. At this moment, each villager's face was filled with looks of extreme shock yet also full of worship. There was a large amount of respect within their eyes mixed with their initial disbelief. Even though they had seen this terrifying event with their own eyes, they still couldn't believe what they were seeing. A single youth not even over the age of 20 had caused such a scene of destruction. Feeling the surge of Saint Force reverberating through him, Jian Chen's heart swelled with a large amount of confidence. With his current strength, although it still wasn't enough to defend himself completely against an Earth Saint Master, but against a group of great Saint Masters he wouldn't be forced to constantly run away and wouldn't have to use his spirit sword as his last resort. Jianchen looked at the light wind sword in his right hand. After his ascension from the Saint Master level, he could clearly tell that his light wind sword had also undergone some changes. His current sword looked to be even shinier than before. The blade was almost similar to the speckless reflection of a mirror that distributed a white glow of brilliant light. The sword glow that appeared over his sword didn't seem like anything too remarkable at first, but the glow alone could split stone and smash metal with a power unimaginable to anyone. Aside from that, the light wind sword's hardness had been vastly improved as well. Jianchen was confident that his strength was utterly different from when he was a Saint Master. Whoever wanted to break the 2-finger-wide sword of his would find it an extremely daunting task. Slowly resorbing the sword back into his body, Jianchen looked around himself only to see the broken room he had left behind. With a bitter look on his face, he slowly walked over to Roscoe, who was 100 meters away, and spoke with some regret. "Uncle, this one is truly sorry, I've destroyed the room you lent me." Despite Roscoe being utterly shocked at Jianchen's strength in his heart, he was an experienced mercenary, so he quickly stilled his emotions. Slapping Jianchen on the shoulder, he laughed. "Don't worry about it. It's nothing more than just a room, all we need is some time and it can be rebuilt. Kid, I've really made a serious mistake here. I didn't think that you would be so strong since you look to be so young. I truly am extremely shocked." Roscoe spoke with some excitement in his voice. "Huh, little brother Jianchen is too polite. It is merely a small room. In 6 hours or so a new one can be built. But the power brother Jianchen has just revealed has truly opened our eyes. Everyone, don't you think so as well?" The village elder laughed with a kind expression. "Yes, that's right." Following the village elder's words, every villager behind him began to speak out with adoration and respect. AI. At that moment, the village elder let out a strange sound before looking closely at Jianchen's face before asking curiously, "Little brother Jianchen, why is it that your face is white? I remember a few days ago, your face was red." Rushing to come up with an answer, Roscoe quickly said, "Haha, village elder, brother Jianchen's face had always been pale. A few days ago he had some medicine applied to his body that turned his face red." The village elder nodded his head in understanding before laughing. That's good, that's good. White is a better color on a face than red. I didn't think that little brother Jianchen here would be so strong. Not only that, but to be so handsome as well. With an appearance like this, you could cause all of the women nearby to go crazy over you." Everyone burst out into laughter as they all thought about the elder's words in approval. There was no doubt to them. Jianchen himself had a small smile. The elder's words had caused him to be speechless. All of a sudden at that moment, an unexpected change went through Jianchen's face as his body began to shake violently as a tremendous amount of energy burst out from his body uncontrollably. Staggering back a few steps, he then leaped a few meters away. At the same time, Jianchen's handsome and pale face began to turn violet and then a shade of azure. Even his eyes had begun to display the 2 colors behind the thin layer of his cornea. Roscoe had been pushed back around 20 meters away from the energy Jianchen had unleashed before slowly stabilizing himself. Slowly turning his head to look at Jianchen, he immediately realized the state he was in. With concern, he asked quickly, "Kid, what's wrong?" Jianchen's entire body continued to shake and tremble as his eyes continued to flash in between the 2 colors of violet and azure. Get Biyao back. Everyone, get far away from me, don't get close." Jianchen spat out with some difficulty before sitting down and closing his eyes. "What's wrong? What's wrong with brother Jianchen? Did something go wrong with his cultivation? What happened to brother Jianchen?" The group of villagers scrambled to get away as they noisily clamored. They also looked with confusion at the seated Jianchen. Roscoe's face was full of confusion as well. He had been a Saint Master in his prime before his Saint weapon broke and turned him into a cripple. So after seeing what state Jianchen had been in, he came to realize what problem had come across Jianchen's cultivation. "Get back, we all need to get back for now. Until the kid wakes up, we should all stay quiet for now to avoid disturbing him." Roscoe whispered to the rest before guiding them backward. Chapter 201. The Sword Spirits of the Azure and Violet Swords. Highlight above for chapter title. Jian Chen continued to sit down with his eyes closed as his body trembled. Inside his dantian, it was almost as if there was a giant earthquake violently shaking the place. The violet and azure glows continued to flicker wildly and send their light throughout the entire dantian. Floating in middle of the dantian, even the light wind sword had been affected and was shaking uncontrollably. The first time he had seen the violet and azure glow in his dantian was back in Kargath Academy when he first condensed his saint weapon. At this moment, the two glows of light were releasing a brilliant luster while coiling around each other in the shape and manner of the yin-yang symbol. Feeling the change within his body, Jian Chen's elation from becoming a great saint master had begun to die down. For the first time since taking residency in his dantian, the twin glows were finally causing him trouble once more. Although the matter of the problem in his dantian had caught Jian Chen off guard, he was not too frantic. From this morning, he had long anticipated that something would happen, so he had made preparations in advance. The violet and azure glows in his dantian continued to coil around each other like the yin-yang symbol endlessly. Even the floating saint weapon within his dantian felt as if it was slowly trying to break away from the invisible bindings that bound it to Jian Chen. At the same time, Jian Chen could faintly feel that the twin glows of violet and azure were feeling some sort of excitement within his head. This sensation had left Jian Chen in disbelief and confusion. There was confusion within Jian Chen's thoughts. Just what could have happened to his dantian in order for him to feel such a strange emotion? This has only happened once, back when he had come across the strange white stone back in Wake City. This feeling was rather fierce and Jian Chen also thought that it seemed very deep. Although his mind was baffled, Jian Chen simply didn't have any time to sit around and ponder. From his seated position, he began to try to suppress his saint weapon that was trying to remove his control over it. As of right now, he was completely powerless to do anything else but try to restrain the objects within his dantian. Because of the rebellion of his dantian, Jian Chen had no other choice but to try to withstand it. While sitting, he had begun to pray that the effects would not be too disastrous. The two glows within his dantian began to spin faster and faster as the glows began to emit an even stronger light. In the end, the fierce light from the glows ultimately speared through his body and were sent flying outside. Right now, Jian Chen's entire body was bathed in the rich glow of violet and azure light. The twin light spread out 30 meters away from him as the fierce glows lit up the sky above, completely eclipsing the color of the normal sky light. Hey, look! Jian Chen's body is glowing. How strange, how is there light coming from his body? Could he have made a miracle somehow while cultivating? Seeing the current condition of Jian Chen's body, every villager there opened their eyes in shock. Each person pointed at Jian Chen as they talked. This sight was something that not a single person had ever witnessed before. Then, the twin lights within Jian Chen's dantian flew out completely from his body, bringing about a torrent of light as they flashed through Jian Chen's chest. Crap! Jian Chen's face became shocked. However, the violet and azure light were far too fast for him. The very moment he had become aware of the lights' movement, they had already disappeared from his dantian and passed through his body. Bang! Jian Chen could only hear a boom ring through his head as it began to spin uncontrollably. Even his own vision had begun to blur as if he were on the verge of losing consciousness. In the depths of his mind, Jian Chen felt as if he had arrived in a strange new world. An endless chain of mountains spread out far beyond what his eyes could perceive from the enchanting scenery. The amount of world essence was incomparably abundant and flowed along with the coiling dragon-like river through the mountains. Even the trees near the river were growing in abundance as each tree covered the sky with their canopy. The vision was the picture-perfect scene of a land of paradise. At that moment, a violet and azure-colored light shot through the sky like a falling star, leaving a trail of dazzling light. The speed it was traveling at covered countless miles in a single second. The lights were still twisting and coiling around each other as if they were lovers in the sky. In the midst of the violet and azure light, the faint outline of two mysterious swords could be seen. One was a violet color and the other was a azure color. Ziying sword, Qing Suo sword. Upon seeing these two spiritual swords, Jianchen somehow instantly exclaimed the names of the swords. From this strange world Jianchen was in, he could feel a major difference in his body on the outside. His body continued to emit the two violet and azure glows of light, before forming the two swords 10 meters above his head. From far away, it was almost as if two incomparably large swords had stabbed into Jianchen's head. At the same time, a strong amount of sword aura condensed outside of his body and covered the sky, yet it was also transparent enough to look like a cloud. 100 meters away, the villagers were all looking sluggish once more. No one dared to blink and instead stared at the violet and azure-colored spiritual swords above his head. To the villagers, this sight was far too mystical. A far distance away from Huang village in a large palace, a crane-haired elder floated 3 meters above the ground in a sitting position with his eyes closed. At this moment, the elder suddenly opened his eyes in a single instant. Two mysterious glows of light flashed outward as if penetrating the space in front of him with a chilling stare. As if he could see through the building he was in, his eyes stared out at the outside scene. What a strong qi! Just what is this, and why haven't I seen such a thing before? The elder furrowed his eyebrows as his mind raced with his thoughts. Could it be that somewhere, another peak expert has appeared? Within a small mountain village, a patched-robed elder suddenly lifted his head up from his farm fields and looked off in the direction of Huang village with a calm look. This is sword aura, an abnormally strong sword aura. Who could have reached such a pinnacle in the way of the sword and yet remain unknown to me? Could I have lived in seclusion for far too long in the Tianyuan continent to miss the arrival of a new expert? The elder murmured with some shock. At the same time, from every corner of the Tianyuan continent, many peak experts began to feel the unbelievably strong amount of sword aura with astonished looks. At Huang village, Jianshen had already been sitting in his current position for 2 hours. Everyone in the village had already gathered 100 meters within the area and were talking about the two violet and azure-colored swords above Jianshen. Everyone, look! There's movement. Suddenly, someone within the crowd cried out. Everyone turned to look only to see the violet and azure sword above Jianshen's head gradually dim before completely disappearing from sight. Not too long after, Jianshen slowly opened his shut eyes and had a look of utter disbelief on his face. Taking in another deep breath, Jianshen slowly stood up. Although only 2 hours had passed, he had somehow managed to learn of many things during this time. After all this time, he had finally figured out the existence of the violet and azure lights in his dantian, a problem that he had been perplexed by ever since they first appeared. However, Jianshen found the truth of the situation hard to believe. Even though it was something he had decided, he was still momentarily unable to accept it. Roscoe slowly approached Jianshen after observing him from afar before speaking with concern. "Kid, are you fine now? What exactly made you so shocked?" Jianshen slowly shook his head. "I'm fine, uncle, just a little tired. Could you possibly find me a spare room to sleep in for a moment?" Hearing Jianshen's words, Roscoe let out a breath of air. At the very least, he had confirmed that Jianshen wasn't injured in any noticeable way. "As long as you're fine, then that's no problem. I'll have the village prepare another room for you by the edge of the village so no one will disturb you. It'll be peaceful as well, come on now." After that, Roscoe brought Jianshen to another house by the side of the village. Inside the house, there was no furniture at all, not even a bed. Declining Roscoe's suggestion of getting a bed, Jianshen hurriedly thought of an excuse to have Roscoe leave along with the other people. The light within the room wasn't all that bright, but Jianshen sat on the ground and began to digest the information he had learned today. After that miraculous display, Jianshen had finally understood the meaning behind the violet and azure-colored lights. They were in fact the sword spirit of the deity swords, the Ziying sword and the Qing Suo sword. Both sword had the power to cause mass destruction. These two sword spirits were the equivalent to the primal state of chaos. From the leaking amount of yin-yang qi in the world, they had eventually evolved to finally attain a sentient form. Then, after using the power of an immortal, they had gathered the richest amount of yin-yang qi to refine themselves into the violet and azure soul swords. Even after that, they took the endless amount of world essence and poured it into their own blood to fully refine the soul swords. After the completion of the swords, the world began to shake and the heavens started to rain thunder as if to announce the advent of these weapon deities. The parents of these two swords were basically the yin and yang itself along with the special ingredients used to make the sword. Therefore, these two swords came to be known as the yin-yang swords. Qing Sua as the yin and Ziying as the yang, these two swords were an absolute pair. When the violet and azure swords came together under one, then the yin and yang energy would flow together and would have an absolutely terrifying power of destruction. These swords were even rumored to be able to split the heavens and sunder the earth with a power like no other. Chapter 202. The violet and azure sword. The parents of these two swords were basically the yin and yang itself along with the special ingredients used to make the sword. Therefore, these two swords came to be known as the yin-yang swords. Qing Sua as the yin and Ziying as the yang, these two swords were an absolute pair. When the violet and azure swords came together under one, the yin and yang energies would flow together and have an absolutely terrifying power of destruction. These swords were even rumored to be able to split the heavens and sunder the earth with a power like no other. Although the violet and azure swords together were capable of splitting the heavens and earth. However, since the swords were yin and yang, they naturally fought against each other like water to fire, making it difficult for them to harmonize. If in the process of mixing the two and there was an imbalance of yin or yang, there would be chaos that would devour all. Not only would they harm the enemy, but the owner as well. In the best case, only a small amount of injuries would be gained. However, in the worst case, the person would die. Long time ago, the violet and azure swords had been utilized by their owner in a massive war. In the end, the owner had failed to harmonize with the two and caused tremendous damage to both him and the swords. Ultimately, the swords had been destroyed and left behind two pieces of primal chaos. The remaining amount of yin-yang qi that had flowed in the world had formed the two to become a pair of sword spirits who hid in a spiritual vein underground to recover. This piece of information had been transmitted to his head by the violet and azure sword spirits by a mysterious method, almost as if by some sort of mental communication. At the same time, Jian Shen also knew that the violet and azure sword spirits had suffered a tremendous injury that they didn't fully recover from after failing to harmonize. At the moment, the two were tremendously weak, and before Jian Shen was a great saint master, they were utterly incapable of communicating with him. It was only when he had made that final breakthrough into the great saint master realm that they were able to make a strong effort to create a line of communication. Jian Shen slowly sifted through the newfound information he had been given. The two violet and azure colored lights within his dantian had unexpectedly been two sword spirits capable of self-awareness and thought. This type of end result was something that Jian Shen found hard to believe. However, he wasn't like the average person. Despite this being something most people wouldn't believe, Jian Shen quickly calmed himself down. Jian Shen sat cross-legged on the ground with his eyes shut tight as he meditated. His inner mindscape appeared within his head and there was no longer any dizzying tremors. Even the saint weapon that was trying to break away from him had been stabilized and was levitating in a docile manner like a sheep. The only difference was that the two glows of light that had been floating in his dantian had migrated over to where his saint weapon was. Rotating and revolving slowly, the two glows of light were moving in the pattern of the yin-yang symbol peacefully. Although the violet and azure lights were still residing within Jian Shen's body, his mind was now free of worry since he had nothing unknown to fear. The lights were controllable in comparison to before when they were a topic of mystery. When he didn't know anything about them, Jian Shen had been constantly on the edge of fear, but since that was over, he could finally say he understood the mystery and could now focus on something else. At this moment, Jian Shen was incredibly relieved. This was the first time since he had become a saint that he felt so relaxed about the two lights in his dantian. Slowly opening his eyes, there was a faint smile on his lips. He raised his right hand slowly only to see a violet and azure light appear within the palm of his hand before being swallowed back into his hand. The two lights spiraled and coiled around each other like old lovers, yet they never touched. No matter how much Jian Shen moved his hand, the two glows of light never made contact. The two glows of light were the representatives of the sword spirits. At the moment, Jian was able to bring out a small portion of the sword spirit's power. Although the power in his hand from the two sword spirits didn't seem very remarkable, Jian could sense that these two glows had a terrifying amount of sword chi accumulated inside. It was only a small sliver of the sword spirit's true power, but it was more than enough for Jian to shiver in awe. The sword chi of the sword spirits had already regained its original nature. From the outside it couldn't be sensed, but the violet and azure glows were actually formed out of pure sword chi. With the help of the sword spirits, my strength has improved once more. Even if I were to fight against an Earth Saint Master, I would be able to fight for over 300 blows with the assistance of the sword spirits. Looking at the violet and azure sword chi surrounding his hand, Jian spoke to himself happily. The appearance of the sword spirit made Jian happy, since not only were his questions answered, but he now had a new source of strength to improve himself. Jian continued to mutter happily to himself in his room before calming down after some time. Patting down his clothes, he stood up to walk out of the room. 50 meters away from the room, the entire village was all gathered around and listened carefully in case something could be heard. At the urging of Roscoe, not a single person had uttered a loud sound and began to get a little farther away to avoid Jian. Jian display of strength today had completely opened the eyes of the entire village to a whole new horizon that was the Tianyuan continent. It was only now that they had realized how amazing a saint from the outside world was. Jian may be young, but he was an idol in their eyes. Creak. At that moment, the doors to the rooms suddenly opened as the villagers gathered outside the rooms suddenly went quiet and stared at the emerging Jian. Seeing the group of people around him, Jian had a small smile. It had only been an hour since he had gone into the room. I'm fine now, everyone can rest assured. Seeing everyone come here because of me, this one is truly sorry and hopes that everyone understands. Jian cupped his hands together in an earnest apologetic manner. The moment after Jian finished talking, Roscoe immediately broke the silence from the villagers. Kid, everything is okay if you're fine. He spoke with relief. Smiling, Jian said, this one thanks Uncle for his concerns. At this point I've resolved all the issues, so there is nothing to fear now. Brother Jian, please forgive me for asking, but did you break through into a higher realm? The village elder asked. Next, Jian was assaulted with questions by the villagers who surrounded him. With every question, Jian diligently answered. Jian continued to answer questions for an hour before finally being escorted away by Roscoe. Following him, Jian was led back to where Roscoe's wife and 2 children were. Chapter 203, Hunting Up the Mountain. After experiencing such an event from earlier, everyone's attitude toward Jian in the village, completely changed. The next morning, the sun had just rose, dyeing the sky a reddish blush. In the Huang village, a chaotic mess of sounds could be heard. Jian slowly opened his eyes from the seated position in his bed. That night, he had familiarized himself with the violet and azure sword chi and the identities of the sword spirits. Not only that, but he could now bring out the energies from the violet and azure sword spirits, which was their sword chi. This was a very strong source of power, but it was still unfamiliar to Jian. If he didn't properly familiarize himself with it, then he wouldn't be able to freely use it at an efficient level. So Jian didn't waste any time and immediately set himself to training with it. Jian slowly rose from his bed and walked out of his room. Joyfully taking in the fresh morning air, Jian looked back to his room. Before he had moved in, the village people had spent 2 hours to completely renovate the place for Jian to live in. Outside, everyone in the village was currently in the courtyard exercising. Not too far away, Roscoe's son, Roger, wielded a wood-chopping axe as he slashed continuously into empty space in front of him while shouting out in a loud voice. At that moment, Roger saw Jian approach with an expression full of worship and respect. Immediately running up to him, he spoke anxiously, "Brother Jian, you're so amazing. Do you think you could teach me some martial arts?" Jian laughed and patted Roger on the head gently. "Roger, tell your older brother. In the future, what type of weapon do you wish to use?" "An axe, a really large axe." Just like this one, no, an even bigger axe than this one. Roger raised the wood-chopping axe into the air with an enthusiastic expression. Roger, just because a weapon is large doesn't mean it'll be stronger. The larger a weapon is, the harder it is to control. When you become a saint, you cannot be sloppy when you condense your saint weapon. You must control the saint force within your body to form a saint weapon to a size that you are comfortable with. Understand? Jian Chen's face was exceptionally serious. This question was very important since it could impact a person's life and his entire fighting strength. And Roger understands now. He chirped with an obedient nod of his head. Roger, your brother here isn't proficient with an axe, so I cannot teach much. But brother can still teach you a basic amount of the foundations. After that, Jian Chen explained a few basic principles of cultivation regarding martial arts. These topics were very important to Roger as well as being very practical. After all, if a person wanted to have achievements in the future, not only did one need talent, but they also needed a mastery of the foundation. That foundation was utterly indispensable. If one were to carelessly increase his strength in a sloppy manner, that manner would severely damage both their foundation and their fighting strength. In Jian Chen's past world, he had fought against many axe wielders, so he had a rough understanding of how it worked. However, teaching Roger these things at this moment was far too early. Jian Chen continued to teach Roger for an hour before finishing the training session. After that, Roscoe and a few weapon-wielding men walked up to him from some distance away. Arriving at Jian Chen's side, Roscoe laughed. Kid, what brings you up so early in the morning? You've been here for a month, but this is the first time I've seen you up so early. Jian Chen returned his laugh and looked at the men holding weapons behind Roscoe. Uncle, from the looks of things, you're going up the mountain to hunt? Roscoe nodded his head and replied, correct. The meat we had in the village is all but gone, so we need to go hunting once more. If Jian Chen has some free time, why don't you come with us to go hunting for some wild beasts? You're quite amazing, so with you, our harvest will definitely be bountiful. A middle-aged man right next to Roscoe laughed with kind eyes. He stared at Jian Chen. Jian Chen nodded his head. I've found myself with some spare time, so I might as well go with everyone to learn how to hunt some wild beasts. After a month of residing within Huang village, Jian Chen hadn't helped the village in any way. Now that he was completely healed and had some ideas of leaving, he wanted to help out the village first to repay for the kindness they had shown him. After hearing Jian Chen's response, all of the men ready to go hunting had happy expressions on their faces. Each one of them had personally witnessed Jian Chen's strength. They knew that he was strong beyond belief, so right now, everyone thought that this trip would be an exceptionally rich harvest. Afterward, Jian Chen followed the group to the mountains. Although these mountains were very far from the magical beast mountain range near Wake City, they were not small in size. The mountains were filled with tall grass and had wild beasts roaming about occasionally. Though, Class 1 magical beasts were rare to come by. There were 7 people in total. Aside from Jian Chen, there was only one other person that had a fully condensed saint weapon. The other 5 and Roscoe just carried iron weapons. The deeper parts of the mountains contain a large amount of wild beasts. One of the men spoke while they traveled on the road. He was the only other man who was a saint, named Kratos. Unfortunately, his cultivation was rather mediocre and he had no source of monster cores to supplement his cultivation. Not only that, but he was not diligent in his cultivation, so even though he was around 50 years old, he was only at the level of a saint. For the moment, the group continued to walk slowly while carefully paying attention to their surroundings just in case a wild beast were to make its presence known. The beasts appeared at random and were dangerous enough to this group that they could harm to some of its members. Jian Chen followed the group silently. His eyes occasionally swept around them and his ears trembled with the sounds of activity. Everyone carefully traveled forward for some time before Jian Chen's face suddenly gained a smile. Bending down to pick up a stone, he shot it to the side with the speed of a bullet. Suddenly, a sound could be heard 20 meters off in the tall grass to the side. With the sudden movement, Roscoe and the others grew even more anxious and clenched their weapons in preparation to fight. Seeing the nervous expression on their faces, Jian Chen couldn't help but continue to smile. Waving his hand, he spoke, "No need to be worried, just come with me." The group of men followed Jian Chen through the patch of tall grass only to see a 2-meter-long body on the ground with blood pouring from its head. This is a tiger. Upon seeing the wild beast, everyone aside from Jian Chen and Roscoe cried out in shock. A tiger-class wild beast was undoubtedly one of the more dangerous wild beasts. Their attacks were vicious and their movements quick. Even if the 6 of them were to combine their strength, it would take an intense battle to kill a tiger, and even then, there would be no guarantee that they would have no injuries. However, Jian Chen had just killed a tiger they had thought to be extremely dangerous with ease. In their hearts, they couldn't help but look at Jian Chen with extreme respect as well as a deep amount of envy. Seeing the black tiger on the ground, Roscoe let out a deep breath of air. His face had a complex look as he looked at the wound on the tiger's head. In the past, he could easily kill a Class 1 magical beast with just a wave of his hand. But now, after his saint weapon had been destroyed, he was left with a physique that was marginally better than a regular person. So even hunting for wild beasts required him to form a group. Taking note of the change in Roscoe's face, Jian Chen knew what was going through Roscoe's mind. Mentally sighing, he could understand Roscoe's feelings, but he didn't have any words that could pacify his thoughts. "Everyone bring this wild beast out and let's continue onward." Jian Chen spoke aloud. Okay, following the path, everyone traveled through the mountain while hunting for wild beasts to kill. With a great saint master like Jian Chen leading the group, their harvest had become exceptionally rich. In half a day, they were fully loaded. Each one of them had a spare space belt from Jian Chen that contained the corpse of a wild beast of every type. It could even be said that the amount of wild beasts within these space belts could feed the village for half a year. Right now, Jian Chen had already led the group from the front for a long time. Suddenly, Jian Chen stopped right in front of a patch of grass. 2 meters right in front of Jian Chen was a single blood-soaked man that lay on the ground unconscious with various wounds adorning his body. Jian Chen's eyes went wide as he quickly arrived to the side of the body. His right hand hovered right next to the man's nose while his left hand was placed over the heart. "There's a pulse and airflow, he's alive." Jian Chen's eyes lit up as he tried to save him. After that, the group of men following Jian Chen appeared from the tall grass and saw the unconscious man with shock. Seeing the group, he hesitated for a small moment before taking the man into his arms. "He's still alive, but he's almost on his last breath. It'd be for the best if we return now." "Right, saving a man's life is especially important. We'll head back right away." At the Huang village, Jian Chen and the group of hunters rescuing a man swiftly made news around the village, attracting the interest of many people. This time, everyone was trying to guess whether or not this man they rescued would be like Jian Chen and be a high-leveled expert. Within the small room of Jian Chen, 20 people were gathered around and talked among themselves. Within the room, the man Jian Chen rescued lay on his bed with a small glow of white light surrounding him. Right now, Jian Chen was using the Light Saint Force to heal his wounds. The chances of his ability to use the Light Saint Force like a Radiant Saint Master being exposed were a lot lower since it was daytime. Chapter 204, Ming Dong highlight above. Although the man Jian Chen had rescued wasn't dead, he was still on the verge of dying. This small mountainside village wasn't able to find any sort of high-quality medicine to help treat the man's wounds, so Jian Chen could only rely on the Light Saint Force to save his life. Under the treatment of the Light Saint Force, Jian Chen was able to force the man away from the beckoning of Yanlua Wang. Just as his health stabilized, Jian Chen stopped using the Light Saint Force since he had no desire to reveal that he could utilize the Light Saint Force. That also meant the man's wounds would not be healed in a single motion. Standing in front of the bed, Jian Chen looked over the man only to see the blue robes he was wearing. From his appearance, the man looked to be around 28 years old and was quite handsome. Suddenly, the youth's eyes began to blink open as the pupils inside searched all around. Finally, his eyes landed upon Jian Chen with a confused look before realizing that he was safe. "Are you the one who saved me?" he asked Jian Chen weakly. Nodding his head, Jian Chen replied, "That's right, it was me." Many thanks for saving me. This one is truly grateful and will return the favor. The youth then responded. Jian gave a small smile before saying, for now, don't say anything, let alone repaying me. I too was saved by someone, so like you, we are quite similar. The youth had a mild smile on his face as he heard those words. This one is called Ming. Might I know how to call my benefactor? Jian sat on a stool near the window and replied, you can call me Jian, no need to call me benefactor. Your wounds are still very severe. If it weren't for me bringing you down the mountain and using some medicine, you would have woken up at the Yellow Springs in half a day. Ming Dong's eyes gained a sudden spark of intense hatred as he bit his lips and spat, these wounds of mine, sooner or later I will pay them back. Still sitting down on the stool, Jian eyes had a spark of interest as he looked at Ming Dong. Pointing a finger at the various wounds, he asked, these wounds, were they from your hated enemy? No, Ming Dong shook his head. I originally discovered an injured Class 4 magical beast that was already on the verge of death. After a huge amount of effort on my part, I was able to kill and extract the monster core, but a group of mercenaries found and robbed me. If it was just a single mercenary I wouldn't be afraid, but it was a large group of them. Combined with my wounds, it was enough for them to take my space belt. In a final effort, I ran away with all my strength, otherwise, would not have lived. Jian could only sigh to himself when he heard about Ming Dong's plight. These type of occurrences were common within the Tianyuan continent since the world was one where the strong fed off the weak. Strength was vital here, and if you didn't have the strength, then living on the Tianyuan continent would be exceptionally difficult. Even if one tried to live a low-profile life by not offending anyone, one would not be guaranteed a safe life. Danger could drop down from the skies at any given time, so no one would be able to constantly avoid it. After that, the two began to chat for a while to get to an understanding of each other. Ming Dong was a child from a rural village. He had a decent talent at cultivation and was hard-working as well. At the age of 28 he had already reached the level of a middle Saint Master. This type of cultivation speed was ranked among one of the top within the continent. Because of his habit of living alone, he had never wanted to travel with anyone else. Even after becoming a mercenary, he didn't join any mercenary groups and instead obtained personal freedom. These past few years, Ming Dong would accomplish a few mercenary missions that involved killing a few low-leveled magical beasts for their monster cores. Aside from selling a few for money, he used the rest to help him cultivate, making his cultivation speed faster than those around his age. After finding out about that, Jian gained a new level of respect for Ming Dong. It went without saying that the two most important things that make one strong are to be hardworking and to hunt and kill magical beasts by yourself. Jian was certain in his heart that Ming Dong would be destined for many achievements if he continued to cultivate those traits. After all, for a 28-year-old to reach the level of a middle Saint Master was almost unheard of. What was even more surprising was he had accomplished this by himself. Only the children of those who were born in a wealthy clan or had some sort of treasure would be able to reach such a level so fast. Staring with a complicated look at the pale-faced Ming Dong, Jian hesitated for a moment before finally saying, Ming Dong, I don't know if you're willing to join my mercenary group. After experiencing these things, I'm sure you can realize how beneficial joining a mercenary group can be. Ming Dong hesitated for a moment. He was already accustomed to the solo lifestyle and honestly wasn't willing to join a mercenary group and be restricted by it. The truth of the matter was, with his strength, he could have joined any strong mercenary group a long time ago if he wanted to. Sitting on the bed, Ming Dong had thought about how his life had been saved by Jian and so, despite his personal convictions, he decided. If brother Jian won't mind, then I, Ming Dong, will join your mercenary group. Jian had a happy smile on his face as he laughed. Good, Ming Dong, with you entering the group our strength has gone up. Given some time, I will definitely make our mercenary group the #1 group within the Tianyuan continent. As he spoke, Jian couldn't help but think back to the words Uncle Kendall had once said. My biggest wish is for my flame mercenaries to become the strongest group within the Tianyuan continent. Jian had now took on Kendall's wish for his own. He would replace Uncle Kendall and make the flame mercenaries the strongest in the continent. Ah, that's right. I don't even know what the group is called, how many people there are, how strong it is, or who the captain is. Ming Dong stated. Jian Shen smiled. The mercenary group is called the Flame Mercenaries. As of right now, I am the only member, but with you, that makes 2. As far as strength goes, I am currently at the primary Great Saint Master level. What, just us 2? Astonished, Ming Dong looked at Jian Shen with disbelief, realizing how young Jian Shen was before continuing with a dumbstruck voice. Wait, you say you have the strength of a primary Great Saint Master? Are you sure you're not joking? Chapter 205. Leaving Huang village. With the addition of Ming Dong, Jian Shen could no longer be considered the newest addition of the Flame Mercenaries. In the past, his strength had been insufficient, but now that he was a Great Saint Master and had the assistance of the Violet and Azure Sword Spirits, even if he were to run across an Earth Saint Master, he would be able to fight them. So slowly, he was building up the strength of the Flame Mercenaries. Next, Jian Shen stayed at the Huang village for another 2 days. In those days, he went around saying his goodbyes and prepared to leave the village. In the wooden house, Ming Dong continued to recover his strength. He looked at Jian Shen, who was leaning against the wall. Jian Shen, when I'm fully healed, I will leave Huang village, and if you have not returned, I will look for you. Jian Shen muttered to him, I've used up all the herbs in my possession, so all that's left is for you to slowly heal. By my estimation, you'll fully recover in a month. For now, I'll be leaving to take care of a few personal matters. I'll be back in a month, so for now, just rest up. Taking out a space belt and 8 Class 4 monster core along with a few purple coins. If you heal up and I'm not back yet, then cultivate with these. With your talent and these Class 4 monster cores, your strength will shoot up quickly. If I don't come back for a long time, feel free to leave by yourself. Seeing Jian Shen hold out those 8 Class 4 monster cores, Ming Dong's face became startled. Class 4 monster cores were very costly, and so he had never used one. Just thinking about how he had almost lost his life over a Class 4 monster core had traumatized him a bit. So when Jian Shen had brought out so many Class 4 monster cores for him to cultivate with, he felt that he couldn't comprehend such generosity. Taking a deep breath and calming the raging emotions in his heart, his hand shook as it reached out to grab the items offered to him. With a complex look, he said, words of thanks won't suffice here, but in short, I, Ming Dong, will remember your kindness. Ming Dong was a person who remembered his dues. Jian Shen had saved his life and then gifted him so many precious items, so in Ming Dong's heart, he had resolved to follow Jian Shen with determination. He knew that were it not for Jian Shen, he would not have been able to see the afternoon sun ever again. Plus, Jian Shen was already a Great Saint Master at such a young age, that spoke plenty about his cultivation talent. To follow such a person would be no loss at all. After planning things out with Ming Dong, Jian Shen didn't stay in Huang village and immediately left the village he had stayed in for the past few months. Huang village was very far from any other place and had mountains surrounding it, meaning there were very few people about. Following the instructions of Roscoe and the village elder, he headed out in a certain direction out of the mountain ranges. As time went on, Jian Shen had come across a multitude of villages like Huang village. In these mountains, there were plenty of them. While walking, Jian Shen committed the path back to Huang village to memory. He didn't want the path to be lost to him, since he wanted to meet back with Ming Dong after he finished with his personal matters. To find such a small village within the continent would be extremely difficult. So in the case that he would forget the path, he tried his best to remember every detail. There weren't any wild beasts in the mountain range, and magical beasts were rare as well. With that, Jian Shen could stroll through the mountain ranges for a day without seeing more than 2 Class 1 magical beasts. This mountain range was exceptionally large, and Jian Shen didn't know if he was still within the Blue Wind Kingdom after falling off the cliff and into the river. Jian Shen continued to walk until the sky grew dark, where he stopped by an open plain. In the night, the cliff of a nearby mountain hung overhead while the moon's light scattered down and illuminated the area. Walking just a little farther, he met a group of mercenaries within the cover of the night. There was an encampment of 20 tents with a small campfire lighting up the sky in the middle of it. Slowly walking toward the group of mercenaries until he was within 100 meters of them, Jianshan didn't bother to conceal his footsteps, so the sounds of his walking and the rustling of the grass had instantly alerted the mercenaries. "Who's there?" A voice called out loudly and woke the sleeping mercenaries. Immediately, the previously calm campground went into an uproar as a large group of men came charging out and surrounded Jianshan. Because the moonlight was right behind Jianshan, they could only make out his figure, but upon seeing only a single person, everyone's face loosened up a bit. "Who are you? State your name." A mercenary called out to Jianshan. Jianshan stopped just 20 meters away from the group of mercenaries that surrounded him. "This one is only a mere traveler who has lost his way, perhaps you could spare a map." The mercenaries all looked at him with a strange face of surprise before another mercenary spoke to him. "Where are you coming from and where are you heading to?" Jianshan hesitated for a moment before replying. "Before I ask my question, could you possibly tell me, is this still the Blue Wind Kingdom?" The group of mercenaries were now looking at Jianshan with an absolute look of shock. "Correct, this is the Blue Wind Kingdom," a built mercenary responded. Upon hearing that he was still in the Blue Wind Kingdom, Jianshan had a look of excitement on his face. "That's good. This one, looking for the Class 3 Wake City. If anyone here has the directions, this one will be very grateful." "What, you're going to Wake City?" a person asked in surprise. Like the others, he was staring at Jianshan with a strange look. Seeing the expression on everyone's face, Jianshan was suspicious. "Is there a problem?" "There's no problem, As it is, we're heading to Wake City as well. We didn't think that we'd meet someone else headed in the same direction." A person laughed. "Since all of us are heading to Wake City, you should come with us. There's still a decent ways until Wake City, and the road is still dangerous. One more person is one more person to rely on after all." The sturdy-looking man laughed with a friendly expression. "The captain's right. There's still a long road until we reach Wake City. If you go by yourself, it'll be quite dangerous, so it's best to go with us." A 40-year-old man spoke to Jianshan. Jianshan hesitated for a small moment before nodding his head. "That's fine then. If everyone doesn't mind, then I'll share the road with you. It's quite fortunate that I've met you. I'm not familiar with these roads, so I would have been lost." Chapter 206, Loyal Spirit Mercenaries. After that, Jianshan continued to travel with the mercenary group and chatted with them. Jianshan and the group of mercenaries subconsciously grew closer together, while at the same time Jianshan had learned a thing or two about the group. This group of mercenaries was called the Loyal Spirit Mercenaries, and it had around 80 members. Aside from the captain that had peak Saint Master strength and 5 others that were Saint Master experts, everyone else ranged from Saint to Great Saint. As the night came, Jianshan and the Loyal Spirit Mercenaries would often talk for a while before retiring, but Jianshan would always take out his tent from his space belt and then 2 monster cores in order to spend the rest of the night cultivating. As usual, the energy within the monster cores was absorbed into Jianshan's body at an alarming rate. However, the only difference this time was that the moment it entered Jianshan's body, it automatically rushed toward the violet and azure sword spirits within his dantian without a single speck going toward Jianshan's own body for refinement. Right now both sword spirits were especially weak. Their strength wasn't anywhere close to its peak, so Jianshan didn't rush trying to improve his own strength. Instead, he chose to pass all of the energy he absorbed to the violet and azure sword spirits in order to help them recover. Since he could borrow the power of the sword spirits, he wanted to strengthen their power first so that the power he could use would be even stronger. Now that Jianshan was a great Saint Master, he wasn't in such a frantic rush to improve his strength again. Although the berserk elements within the monster core's energy were quickly absorbed by the sword spirits, just randomly cultivating would only lead to a shaky foundation and affect his strength. The violet and azure sword spirits had taken the energy at a fast rate, even faster than Jianshan's original absorption rate. A single class 4 monster core would be completely assimilated into the sword spirits in 2 hours. Taking in a deep breath, Jianshan was surprised by just how fast the sword spirits were absorbing the energy from within the monster cores. He didn't know just how much it would take for the sword spirits to recover, but the speed they were taking the energy had triumphed over his. With a Class 4 monster core completely gone within 2 hours, Jian Chen could only be shocked at this speed. After all, a Class 4 monster core was not like a Class 3 monster core. If it took 2 hours to fully absorb a Class 3 monster core, then Jian Chen would take the results begrudgingly. But for a Class 4 monster core, Jian Chen couldn't afford to have that kind of result. Despite the fact that he could kill a Class 4 magical beast without a problem, they weren't as abundant in numbers as Class 3 or Class 2 magical beast. AI. It takes 2 hours to absorb a Class 4 monster core, and with 24 hours in a day, that means 12 Class 4 monster cores could be fully absorbed. What an extravagant waste. Jian Chen sighed as he furrowed his eyebrows together. The night was very peaceful in the campground, but occasionally there was an odd sound. By morning, the sun dyed the lands a bright red as the loyal spirit mercenaries packed up their tents while chattering. Soon afterward, the campfire came to life with a crackling sound. In his tent, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes and shook himself sober from his cultivational meditation. Walking out of his tent, Jian Chen's eyes swept around. Seeing only 40 men moving about and lighting campfires while packing up the tents, he noticed a few were already mounting the horses in preparation to move out. From some other tents, a few men slowly crawled out in a hazy stupor. A few of them were yawning continuously, a symbol of their lack of good sleep. Slowly shaking his head, Jian Chen began to pack up his tent. "Hey, Jian Chen. Did you get a good night's sleep?" Suddenly, a deep voice called out to him from behind. At the voice, Jian Chen turned his head behind only to see a sturdy-looking man coming toward him. This man was someone Jian Chen recognized. He was the leader of the loyal spirit mercenaries, Zhou. "Ah, quite well, yes." Jian Chen responded with a laugh, though last night, he hadn't slept a wink. To be accurate, Jian Chen hadn't ever slept frequently since he was young. The moment he had become a saint, he started to sleep less and generally spent the nights cultivating. Sleep was nothing more than a waste of daylight. Although sleep was necessary to recover, when a person sleeps, their head becomes blank. Within this world of spirits and dreams, a person wouldn't be able to sense the passage of time, but the common man would waste this time by sleeping. A cultivator could enter a state of meditation and recover his spirit there. Through this method, not only would the spirit recover, but it would also improve faster than sleep would. Sleep was merely a way to recover spirit. The stronger experts of the world would be able to go day and night without sleeping. After an early breakfast, the loyal spirit mercenaries immediately set off for the road. Jian Chen didn't have a mount to ride on, but instead rode within a crowded caravan on the way toward Wake City. In a flash, Jian Chen had traveled with the loyal spirit mercenaries for an entire day. In that time, Jian Chen had idly chatted and deepened his friendship with them all. At this moment, Jian Chen sat within the crowded caravan with his eyes shut before slowly opening them. Staring outward with a cold glare, he spoke out, "Be careful everyone, there's movement up front. It should be a magical beast." Hearing Jian Chen's warning, the group paused as each one of them stared up ahead. However, no matter how much they strained their eyes, they could only see an empty plain in front of them with no strange object. "Jian Chen, you're too sensitive. Everything's normal with nothing moving at all." A mercenary called back with a grumble. "Yeah, Jian Chen, this type of talk shouldn't be said so casually. If you can't make sure of this in the future, then it's best to not joke about it," Zhou reprimanded. Suddenly, just as Zhou finished speaking, the land around them began to shake. "Captain, there's actually movement. Pay attention to the ground." A mercenary cried out the moment he realized the ground was shaking. "The earth is shaking. Could a group of mercenaries on mounts be passing by? Are we being attacked by a group of magical beasts?" As they spoke, each one of the loyal spirit mercenaries began to pay attention to the shaking of the ground with serious expressions on their faces. "Everyone prepare yourself for an attack," Zhou cried out without hesitation toward his group of mercenaries. Each one of the loyal spirit mercenaries suddenly sprung into motion as they brought out their saint weapons. They arranged themselves into a serious battle formation as if ready to fight a war. Chapter 207, Conflict with a Giant Beast. As the tremors in the ground became more apparent, everyone grew more and more serious as they tried to find out what exactly was causing the tremors. All the loyal spirit mercenaries clenched their weapons as they stared ahead. They heard many sounds coming from in front of them, but they still couldn't see anything. Each one of the mercenaries knew that if what Jian Shen had said about a single magical beast was true, then this one was indeed a strong magical beast. Everyone be careful, if we can't fight, then prepare to scatter. Hudolf barked in a serious tone. Just then, a man with an expensive robe and a weak-looking face came up from behind and moved next to Hudolf. Captain Hudolf, what's happening? I just heard something about a magical beast heading our way, is that true? Sire Hari, you should move back for now. We're not sure if it's safe yet, but based on the movements in front of us, it's either a group of mercenaries on mounts, or a large amount of magical beasts. And it's not just one magical beast. Hudolf's voice was calm, but his expression was extremely serious. Can the goods be saved? The weak-looking man asked. That's difficult to say. Hudolf shook his head. Sire Hari, you should prepare to run for now. In the case that there's a large group of travelers, then it won't be that bad. But if it's a single magical beast, then Sire Hari, you should know the result. Hearing Hudolf's words, the man could only sigh heavily. Those goods were his, and the loyal spirit mercenaries was the group he had hired to protect him until Wake City approached. If the goods they were transporting were lost, then he would not be able to make up for the deficit, since this entire inventory of goods had been completely bought using the man's savings. Jian Shen sat cross-legged within the caravan with his eyes concentrated in the direction ahead. However, compared to the others, he was much calmer. There wasn't a single trace of panic to be seen in his eyes. At this moment, a small dust cloud could be seen from beyond the horizon. The dust cloud wasn't moving too fast, but as the dust cloud moved up and down, the mercenary group could feel the tremors in the ground get stronger. These shakes continued to spread further and further within a large perimeter of several kilometers. By this point, everyone could finally see that the reason behind the dust cloud and tremors was indeed a magical beast. Everyone's faces grew whiter by a few shades. If it was a group of people that was causing the shakes, then they would have been able to make way for the group to pass, or even give some money for a safe passage. But with a magical beast, there weren't any other options aside from fight or flight. The large magical beast right in front of them appeared to be a large gorilla that was 10 meters in height with brown fur. It stood up on two legs like a human, and walked similarly to a human as well. Step by step, it bounded towards them. That's a war beast. Seeing the large humanoid magical beast, Hudolf's face became priceless, and the furrow of his brows loosened significantly as well. A war beast, as the name implied, existed to fight. Not only were their physical defenses terrifyingly strong, but their strength was unparalleled and could overthrow city walls. These types of magical beasts were known as the children of the earth, the pets of Mother Earth, or natural controllers of the earth. A single footstep of these war beasts could cause tremors within 100 kilometers. If it was a strong war beast or a group of them, then they could bring down a Class 1 city's walls with their footsteps from a distance of 10 kilometers away. Despite this, a warbeast's single-target attack was pathetically weak, and they had an even greater weakness in speed. There weren't many warbeasts within the Tianyuan continent, but they weren't extremely rare either. Practically every country had a few warbeasts under their command. Captain, that's a warbeast. Its defense is strong, but its offense is relatively weak. What should we do? Should we fight it, and force it away? A loyal spirit mercenary asked. No wonder there was such a strong tremor, it was a war beast. Since it's a war beast, this will be easier to deal with. Hudolf laughed. Brothers, a war beast isn't much of a threat to us, let's drive it back. All right. Immediately, a group of mercenaries jumped down from their mounts and dashed toward the large war beast. Jian Shen sat in the caravan as he estimated that there were probably only 500 meters separating them and the war beast. His mind raced as he tried to think of any good information on warbeasts. A warbeast's strength is determined by its size. A war beast that has reached Class 6 level will be around 100 meters tall. A Class 5 war beast will be around 50 meters, and a Class 3 war beast would be less than 10 meters tall. Judging from this war beast, it's a little over 10 meters, making it a Class 4 war beast. Jian Chen muttered. A war beast's defenses are exceptionally strong. Even a magical crystal cannon would be unable to do damage to it. The stronger it is, the more terrifying its defenses are. It would be incredibly hard to kill one. Even the Dragon Clan during the peak of the magical beast era was said to have been unable to match with the war beast's defenses. I'm not sure if I can penetrate through its defenses with my current strength. Ho! Seeing a group of mercenaries charge toward it like a group of small ants, the war beast let out a roar before stomping heavily on the ground. Bang! As an oppressive roar rang out, the ground around the war beast began to fiercely shake. A series of web-like cracks ran through the ground in all directions. Soon, the area within the large perimeter was covered in cracks. The violent shaking of the ground had caused the caravans to sway violently. The force was so great that even Jian Chen wasn't able to control himself, and fell to the ground. Creak. The caravans began to creak with a painful sound as the various commodities tumbled to the ground. Not too long after, dozens of caravans all collapsed. This kind of earthquake didn't affect the loyal spirit mercenaries at all. The group quickly arrived at the war beast's feet and resolutely hacked at the war beast's body with their saint force-filled saint weapons. However, they didn't damage the giant war beast at all. Even its fur had remained completely uncut. Ho! The large war beast snarled angrily. It lifted one of its large legs into the air before firmly slamming it down towards a mercenary's head. That mercenary lazily rolled away and dodged the war beast's foot. When the war beast strongly slammed its foot into the ground with a seeming endless amount of force, the entire area shook violently once more. But what amazed everyone was the fact that when the war beast lifted its leg, there was not a single trace of a crater to be seen from the blow. Chapter 208, He Fearful Violet and Azure Sword Chi, the defenses of a war beast are quite strong. Everyone put more strength into your attacks, combine them. Hudolph cried out as his saint weapon materialized in his right hand. With an explosive shout, a large amount of saint force surged into his weapon as he slashed down onto the war beast. Just as Hudolph used his entire strength on that one strike, it didn't have any effect. The war beast's skin remained undamaged like before and not even a single strand of hair was cut. Damn it all. Hudolph couldn't help but curse out loud. Why is this war beast so strong defensively? It's just standing there for me to kill, but I can't kill it. Captain, this war beast is just too strong in terms of defense. We're not strong enough to harm its defenses, so what should we do, run away? A mercenary shouted to Hudolph. Captain, this war beast is a Class 4 magical beast. Even if a great saint master can damage it, we surely cannot with our strength. It'd be for the best if we retreat. A gray-robed middle-aged man spoke to Hudolph from his side. That's right, Captain. We don't have any way of beating this war beast. Hearing his mercenaries' opinions, Hudolph didn't hesitate. Immediately barking out a command, he shouted, "Brothers, head toward the caravans, I'll hold the war beast off." Yes. Immediately a dozen men ran back toward the caravans at the back of the group. The moment they saw the caravans, each one of them became thunderstruck. Each one of the caravans had been broken apart from the shock waves, making it impossible to run away. Crap, what do we do now? With so many goods, I won't be able to store them all in all the space belts. The mercenaries all felt a bit awkward as Hari began to panic and fluster about with concern. Bang! Bang! At that moment, the earth shook violently once more as the war beast charged forward with heavy footsteps. Carrying with it an imposing air that had destroyed the caravans, its feet continued to harass the loyal spirit mercenaries underneath it without any concerns. Crap, it's coming. Sire Hari, you should store the most important items into your space belt first. With so many things, it's impossible to save them all. Seeing the war beast come trampling over, one of the mercenaries shouted nervously to the weak-looking man behind them. But, these items are all precious. This is practically my life savings. If I give them up, I will take disastrous losses. Plus, my space belt isn't even that big to begin with, so I won't be able to carry much. Hari cried out bitterly as he looked at the 10 broken caravans with a broken heart. No one needs to panic. This war beast here, leave it to me and I'll stall it. Just as Hari and a few other mercenaries were panicking, a calm voice suddenly rang out. Every person close by turned their heads to look at the owner of the voice only to see Jian Shen, who hadn't bothered to participate in this battle until now. The mercenaries and Hari's face had a skeptical look to it as they watched the 20-year-old Jian Shen walk forward. They clearly didn't believe the words he was speaking, and so a mercenary couldn't help but say, "What did you say, Jian Shen? You're going to stall the war beast?" Jian Shen, this war beast is unbelievably tough in terms of defenses. Not only that, but it's also a class 4 magical beast. Unless we have an Earth Saint Master here with us, then it'll be impossible to fight this. Even a great Saint Master will be unable to pierce through the defenses of this war beast. An experienced mercenary explained to Jian Shen. He doubted Jian Shen due to his age and because of how strong the war beast was. As everyone called Jian Shen's strength into question, he only laughed without explaining himself. Walking forward, his body suddenly flew like a bullet toward the war beast 100 meters away. Jian Shen's speed was exceedingly fast. In the blink of an eye he appeared right in front of the war beast and the light wind sword instantly materialized in his right hand. With a sharp amount of sword chi transforming the glow around the blade, Jian Shen thrust it in between the eyebrows of the war beast. Even as the light wind sword made contact with the space between war beast, it was prevented from going any further. Jian Shen's eyes narrowed for a moment as he felt the large amount of resistance against his sword. For a moment, Jian Shen had began to doubt that this was a war beast and was instead an incomparably defensive essence. Ho! The war beast let out an angry snarl as both of its eyeballs stared at Jian Shen with a bloodthirsty glare and threw a hand at him. Turning his body in the air, he flew down to avoid the paw and landed gracefully on the ground. His eyes hardened as he looked at the gorilla-type war beast. What a strong defense, to somehow surpass my expectations by so much. No wonder the legends say that even magical crystal cannons aren't able to injure it. However, his initial sword strike had left the faintest of traces upon further observation despite not landing a substantial blow on the war beast. Although he didn't use his entire strength, Jian Shen knew that even with it, there was no guarantee that he would be able to split open the war beast's defenses. A war beast's defenses were legendary within the Tianyuan continent, and rumors had it that humans and magical beasts within the same level as the war beast would be utterly incapable of damaging it. Even if a human were to use an extremely strong battle skill, it would perhaps be able to create a small amount of damage. The moment a war beast reached the level of a class 4 war beast, its defenses would also increase and even Earth Saint Masters would have a hard time killing it. Bang! 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 The war beast followed Jian Shen with his eyes as each footstep it made shook the ground. Walking toward Jian Shen, it could feel the slight pain still from Jian Shen's sword. Jian Shen, hurry up and run. The war beast is about to charge at you. Hudolf cried out. However, Jian Shen turned a deaf ear to Hudolf's warning, and with a sharp gaze that was filled with energy he looked at the approaching war beast. Jian Shen's light wind sword suddenly burst into a violet and azure glow. Ho! The war beast was right in front of Jian Shen now. With another roar, it lifted a leg to stomp on Jian Shen. Jian Shen dodged the following step by moving to the side. Then jumped in between the war beast's eyebrows. The light wind sword stabbed forward like a flash of lightning. This time, the moment the sharp light wind sword made contact with the eyebrows of the war beast, it was almost as if the defenses no longer existed. The light wind sword easily stabbed through the war beast's defenses straight into its skull. The war beast's defense was like a piece of tofu in comparison to the light wind sword. The moment Jian Shen stabbed it with his light wind sword he felt no resistance at all. Ao! The war beast let out a miserable cry that reverberated through the air. Slowly, the howls of pain receded as the giant body slowly crashed to the ground. Jianshan pulled out his light wind sword from the skull of the war beast as a few bloody drops fell to the ground. Bang! The war beast's gigantic body smashed against the ground, shaking the ground twice, sending a ton of dust flying up into the air. Chapter 209. Return to Wake City. Seeing the downed war beast, every single loyal spirit mercenary's face instantly grew lifeless. At this moment, every single movement had stopped as if everyone had frozen. Their eyes were stuck on the war beast whose head was bleeding profusely with looks of extreme disbelief. The Class 4 war beast in front of them had a defense stronger than what any one of them could imagine. Even a great Saint Master would be hard-pressed to damage a war beast, and an Earth Saint Master with a battle skill would still need to use an astounding amount of effort to kill it. To see this unbelievably tenacious war beast killed by a youth not even over the age of 20, everyone was incredibly shocked. No one had expected this type of power from a person they picked up on the way to Wake City. At that moment, every loyal spirit mercenary realized that this low-profile man traveling with them was actually a high-leveled expert. Jianshan didn't take notice of the shock of the loyal spirit mercenaries. At this moment, his mind was reeling from shock. He was surprised to learn that the violet and azure-colored sword spirit's power would be so strong. Despite his foreknowledge of it, Jianshan still couldn't help but be shocked by the extent of the power. By Jianshan's approximations, the defenses of the war beast would be incredibly difficult for him to make even a substantial amount of damage. If he really wanted to injure the war beast, he would need at least the strength of an Earth Saint Master, and yet with the power of the sword spirits, the war beast's defenses were like tofu. They allowed for the light wind sword to pierce through the skull without the slightest bit of resistance. Now was also the time that Jianshan understood how terrifying the violet and azure sword spirits were. Although the sword chi was an extension of the sword spirits who were in a very weakened state, their power was still overwhelming. With this, Jianshan realized that he had the fighting strength of an Earth Saint Master. The war beast is dead, oh heavens! A war beast was killed, and this war beast was even at the Class 4 level in strength. Everyone had already returned to where the caravans were. One by one they expressed their feelings as everyone looked at Jianshan with expressions of shock, while a few others had expressions of worship. The loyal spirit mercenaries' leader, Hudolf, let out a breath of air as he examined the ground where the dead war beast lay. With a slight shake of his head he looked at Jianshan, who was close by. After a moment of hesitation, he walked over to him. Jianshan, I didn't think you'd be an expert of such profound strength. AI. It is truly inconceivable that with your current age you are able to kill a war beast of this level. However, I as the representative of every member of the loyal spirit mercenaries must give you my thanks. You have solved a major problem for us. Hudolf spoke honestly and respectfully. Jianshan's excitement began to decrease back to a normal level before smiling. This was no effort at all, so the captain needs not be so polite. Besides, we are sharing the road. If one of us comes across a problem, then it is natural that I provide assistance. Jianshan and Hudolf began to talk among themselves politely for a while before the other mercenaries busied themselves with other matters. The loyal spirit mercenaries were split into two groups. One was responsible for repairing the caravans and loading up the goods, and the other group was responsible for dealing with the war beast's body. The body of a war beast was something the loyal spirit mercenaries wanted to sell, but because the body was far too strong and extremely heavy, they wouldn't be able to move it. So they could only bitterly bite their tongues and abandon it after Jianshan extracted the monster core from within it. In a flash the caravans were repaired, everyone resumed their travel to Wake City once more. Now, Jianshan was sitting at the front of the very best caravan they had to offer, where the owner of the goods, Hari, sat with a friendly smile. Suddenly a thought flashed through Hudolf's head. Turning to Jianshan, he asked, Jianshan, seeing how young you are, you've only just started to travel within the Tianyuan continent, correct? Jianshan nodded his head. Yes, I've only been traveling for 2 or 3 years now. Then would you consider joining our loyal spirit mercenaries? While we aren't extremely strong, every member here is very close. We're a tightly knit group. After traveling the Tianyuan continent for many years, our experience is quite abundant. Plus, if you travel with us, you will be familiarized with the continent quickly and learn of the many dangers. Even the strongest of mercenaries will lose out on many things if they are not experienced with the continent. Hudolf spoke with an anxious look of anticipation as he tried to rope Jian Shen into his group. Giving an apologetic smile, Jian Shen replied, "This one thanks Captain Hudolf for his offer, but I've already joined a mercenary group." "Ah, what a great shame then," Hudolf said disappointedly. He then looked at Jian Shen once more and spoke again. "For a mercenary group to have a person like you, then that must mean that mercenary group is quite strong." Jian Shen shook his head with a bitter smile. "Right now, aside from me, there is only one other person in it. I am the captain." Hudolf looked at Jian Shen with astonishment, but no words came out from his mouth. The man was thinking about something inside his head. Afterward, the group continued to travel toward Wake City slowly. On the road, Jian Shen's position within the Loyal Spirit Mercenaries had took a drastic change. Everyone was very respectful to him to the point of far surpassing that of their captain Hudolf. Even Captain Hudolf himself had taken on a warm and affectionate tone with him. The road was relatively peaceful after that. Another 3 days went by before the caravan finally reached the territory of Wake City. At this, Jian Shen could already make out the magical beast mountain range 20 kilometers from Wake City. In front of them, the tall city walls of Wake City greeted everyone's eyes. Even after 1 year had passed, the city walls hadn't changed at all. The only difference was that the amount of soldiers on top of the city walls had multiplied. Even the amount of guards at the gates had reached a larger number than Jian Shen had remembered. Seeing the familiar walls once more in a state like he had remembered, Jian Shen couldn't help but remember when the Tianxiong clan had chased him out of the city and forced him to make a miserable escape. Tianxiong clan. I, Jian Shen, have returned. Chapter 210, A timely meeting in the restaurant. The caravan entered the city without any problems. Jian Shen and the Loyal Spirit Mercenaries bid each other farewell and set about their own paths. Seeing Jian Shen walk farther and farther away, Hudolf had a look of hesitation on his face as he sat on his mount. His head lowered in thought before biting his lips as if he had reached a conclusion before turning to look at this group of mercenaries. "Brothers, after all of the goods are delivered properly, do not leave yet. There is one more matter I wish to talk to everyone about." "Yes, Captain." The Loyal Spirit Mercenaries all cried out in agreement. Although each one of them had some sort of question on their mind, not a single one of them said it out loud. Jian Shen walked through the large streets, but unlike last time, Jian Shen felt that the atmosphere in the city was heavier, as if some big event was about to happen soon. He then walked into a restaurant where people bustled about their business and the sweet aroma of food wafted into his nose. Smelling the unique fragrance of meat and vegetables, Jian Shen couldn't help but stop and admire the smell for a brief moment before continuing in. While he resided within the Huang village, Jian Shen had spent many days with a simple meal and tea and hadn't been able to eat any delicacies that only a city restaurant could offer. At the beckoning of a waitress, Jian Shen sat at a table so he could have a meal to eat. There was a window located by the table. Right now the day was already noon, so the restaurant was full of people. A group of sturdy-looking people sat near him and talked loudly over their meals. "Do you know when this next magical beast wave will happen or how long it'll last?" The city lord made an announcement. The wave should occur within a few days' time. But according to the last wave, this wave might last for over 10 days. The sounds of chatter reached Jian Shen's ears. The interesting tidbits he heard caused his ears to vibrate in interest. In thought, Jian Shen muttered to himself, "A wave of magical beasts. Could it be that the magical beasts from the magical beast mountain range are coming to besiege the city? If so, then it's no wonder that the atmosphere in the city is so tense." With that, Jian Shen continued to eat his meal while listening in on the men talking to each other. With each bite of food he made, he digested the information he heard. "Hey, look! Isn't that the Zhou mercenaries?" One voice in particular stood out to Jian Shen, and the moment the words registered in his head, Jian Shen immediately froze in place as he was reaching out with his chopsticks to pick up a slice of meat. Slowly raising his head, he looked out the door of the restaurant only to see a group of 4 armored mercenaries with an impressive design walk into the building. These 4 mercenaries had the same exact armor with an identical emblem imprinted on their armor. Aside from the helmets, these mercenaries looked to be the same exact ones like the ones Jian Chen had met at the Magical Beast mountain range. The 4 Zhou mercenaries walked to a table near Jian Chen and sat down. After ordering a meal, the 4 began to talk quietly among themselves. Following the entrance of the 4 Zhou mercenaries, the topics in the restaurant began to divert to be about the Zhou mercenaries. I've heard the Zhou mercenary captain Zhou Yun made a breakthrough into the Great Saint Master level 3 months ago. With a Great Saint Master, the Zhou mercenaries are surely much stronger than before. Right now within Wake City, the Zhou mercenaries are nearly unparalleled in strength. That sounds about right. Ever since Zhou Yun made a breakthrough to Great Saint Master, the strength of the entire group increased rapidly. Right now their members number over 100, and with the support of the Zhou clan, then within Wake City, the Zhou mercenaries can easily be considered one of the strongest 3. Many of the diners were chatting quietly, but each one of them were quite strong, so they could easily talk to each other without fear of angering the 4 mercenaries. Hearing the chatter of all the people around them, the 4 Zhou mercenaries sitting near Jian Chen couldn't help but have arrogant looks on their faces. Within the small Wake City, a Great Saint Master was considered one of the peak experts. Their statuses had skyrocketed ever since their captain made a breakthrough to become a Great Saint Master as well as gaining so many members. Zhou mercenaries, I didn't think I'd see you in Wake City. Jian Chen stared coldly at the Zhou mercenaries with an intense desire to kill. Slowly putting down the chopsticks in his hand, Jian Chen walked to the 4 Zhou mercenaries and looked straight at them before speaking slowly. You 4 are from the Zhou mercenaries? The 4 Zhou mercenaries all looked at Jian Chen. From his tone and posture, the Zhou mercenaries could all tell that Jian Chen was not favorable to them. In a flash, their own eyes stared coldly back at Jian Chen. Correct, we are members of the Zhou mercenaries. Kid, who are you? Speak your name. A sturdy-looking mercenary said arrogantly to Jian Chen. Everyone within the restaurant began to look at the interaction between the 4 Zhou mercenaries and Jian Chen. Putting down their bowls and chopsticks, everyone tried to pay close attention to what they were saying and started to prepare themselves just in case a fight would happen. Humph, Jian Chen snorted. There was a look of disdain on his face as he remained quiet. Instead, the light wind sword instantly appeared in his hand before spearing the throat of one of the Zhou mercenaries. Seeing the sword pierce their comrade's throat, the other 3 mercenaries were in shock for a brief moment before recovering themselves and crying out furiously. To dare go against us Zhou mercenaries, do you seek death? One roared as the other 2 members charged at Jian Chen with their saint weapons ready to slash at Jian Chen. He pulled the light wind sword out from the dead mercenary with a smooth gesture before it flashed silver once more. As the 3 saint weapons danced and flew at Jian Chen, his sword flew out and cut through the throats of 2 of the mercenaries and stopped right in front of the neck of the final remaining mercenary. As the saint weapon stopped briefly in front of his neck, the last mercenary quickly recalled his own saint weapon with an extremely pale face. He didn't dare believe that a 20-year-old youth like Jian Chen would be able to beat him. His strength was at the primary Saint Master level, but he was no match for a small youth like Jian Chen. His eyes shook slightly as he turned his head to look at the 2 previously alive mercenaries by his side. His eyes could only see the small rivulet of blood pouring from their necks before their bodies fell to the ground. At this, the final mercenary's courage broke as he felt panic in his heart. Hastily, he began to cry out for forgiveness. Don't kill me, don't. Great swordsman, if there's something you want to say, say it. Just don't kill me, I'll do anything you want me to. Seeing the look of fright on the mercenary's face, Jian Chen sneered, bring me to your general headquarters for the Zhou mercenaries, otherwise, I'll kill you here and now. Chapter 211, Judgment Day for the Zhou mercenaries. 1. With a sword pointing straight at his throat, the mercenary didn't dare to try and put up a courageous face. Without hesitating to answer Jian Chen's request, he took him to the headquarters of the Zhou mercenaries with a look of alarm. Jian Chen and the mercenary walked out of the restaurant, but within it, the previously silent building exploded with chatter as everyone looked on with disbelief at the 3 dead corpses of the Zhou mercenaries. In shock, each diner started to chat to one another about the event that just happened in front of them. Who is that youth? His strength is unexpectedly high to be able to kill 3 Zhou mercenaries. I didn't even get to see his movements at all since they were so quick. What a truly shocking event. I am already 40 years old, but my strength hasn't even passed that of a primary Saint Master. But that youth is barely 20 years old and he killed a few men that are around my strength in a flash. How inconceivable. That youth is far too strong. I estimate that he is at the great Saint Master level. Could it be the Zhou mercenaries have offended him and he has come to take revenge today? The Zhou mercenaries captain Zhou Yun also has the strength of a great Saint Master. They also have multiple Saint Master experts. This youth has raised the banners of war so quickly for the Zhou mercenaries' main army, I am not sure if he will even be an opponent for them. This mysterious expert youth surely has a vendetta against the Zhou mercenaries. After that marvelous fighting ability, I wish to see their fight. Right, there'll surely be a fight in a moment, let's hurry up and go see it. Let's go. Everyone has to go see this once-in-a-lifetime event. After that, every single person in the restaurant cried out their approval and stampeded out of the restaurant, practically leaving the place empty. Jian Shen didn't bother to hold his light wind sword at the Zhou mercenary. Instead, he slowly walked behind him with a calm look as the two flowed through the streets. Although he wasn't paying much attention to the mercenary in front of him, if the mercenary wanted to run away, Jian Chen's light wind sword would instantly pierce through his neck. Behind Jian Chen, the group of people from the restaurant followed at a distance of 50 meters. The Zhou mercenaries were based within Wake City in a single central house. Right above the gates to the house, a single board written in fancy calligraphy had the words, Zhou mercenaries, written on it with a group of 4 heavily armored mercenaries standing right below it. Seeing the giant board on top of the gates, Jian Shen couldn't help but have a gloomy yet dark smile on his face as a flash of killing intent appeared within his eyes before following the mercenary to the headquarters. This is the territory of the Zhou mercenaries, speak your name. Just as Jian Shen approached the giant gates, the guards at the gates blocked his path with a cold look and a loud shout. Humph. Jian Shen snorted once more as the light wind sword appeared in his right hand. In a flash, the heavily armored mercenary had his throat pierced as blood began to spill all over the ground. The Zhou mercenary gripped at his neck with his hands as his face began to pale before ultimately, his body fell to the ground. Seeing their dead comrade on the ground, the other 3 mercenaries were all shocked. They quickly regained their bearings and cried out in anger. How brazen! To kill one of our Zhou mercenaries, you are impatient for death. Immediately 2 saint weapons flew at Jian Shen as the last one retreated in between the gates to report the commotion. Suddenly, just as the 2 mercenaries moved into action, Jian Chen's light wind sword flashed silver and stabbed into the throats of the 2 before they could even react fast enough to register the sword. In a single moment, Jian Shen had killed 3 of the 4 guards at the gate and the last one had escaped inside to warn the others. Staring coldly at the 3 dead bodies on the ground, Jian Shen looked at the board overhead. Zhou mercenaries, today is the day you will be eradicated from Wake City. With that, he leaped into the air with the faint glow of his light wind sword and slashed apart the board symbolizing the Zhou mercenaries. After destroying the Zhou mercenaries' board, Jian Shen immediately kicked apart the gates with a crashing noise. The wooden gates had been instantly blasted off the door hinges before landing on the ground far away from him. Bang! Just as the large gates fell to the ground, a large sound reverberated through the air along with the doors breaking into pieces and flying everywhere in a storm of splinters. Humph, who is so audacious to go and attack our Zhou mercenaries? At the same time, a furious voice called out to Jian Shen from inside. Jian Shen walked forward casually step by step. He walked with a gentle approach as if he were on an evening stroll. Even his face was calm as if he wasn't taking the Zhou mercenaries seriously. As Jian Shen walked into the courtyard, the figures inside the house suddenly appeared in front of Jian Chen's eye. In the previously empty space in front of him, a single blue-robed middle-aged man stood there. The man looked to be around 50 years old with a few scars adorning his face. They made his appearance rather frightening. Following the entrance of this man, another group of 20 people flew into the courtyard in quick succession, a few of them running while the others flew down from the ceiling. In a short moment, there was a total of over 100 men filling up the courtyard with Jian Shen in the center, surrounded. The man with the scarred face stared coldly at Jian Shen as he measured him up. "Kid, who are you and why are you here to fight with us Zhou mercenaries?" Jian Shen returned the glare as he looked around himself. Instead of answering the man, he asked his own question, "Is this everyone from the Zhou mercenaries?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man furrowed his eyebrows. "What is the meaning of your question?" Jian Shen let out the smallest of smiles as his right hand clenched the light wind sword. A sharp amount of sword chi filled the air around it as he whispered, "From here on out, Wake City will no longer have the Zhou mercenaries." Chapter 212, Judgment Day for the Zhou mercenaries. 2. When Jian Shen's calm promise reached the ears of every Zhou mercenaries, their faces all changed abruptly. In an instant, every cold glare directed at Jian Shen was replaced with a furious anger and killing desire. The scarred man had a look of fury as well as his expression grew dark. A very intense amount of killing intent emanated from his eyes as he stared fiercely at Jian Shen with a sneer. "Kid, with just you have no qualifications to speak of such a thing. Someone, go and seize him. Let this ignorant kid understand how high the heavens are compared to the earth. Let him know our Zhou mercenaries are not someone to fight with." As the man barked out an order, the surrounding mercenaries didn't hesitate for a moment as each one of them materialized their saint weapons and charged at Jian Shen from every possible angle. Jian Shen let out a sneer as his body flickered out of sight. Just as the last of his body flickered away, the saint weapons from his enemies all hit nothing but air. Jian Shen rapidly moved back and forth like a bolt of lightning as he lashed out with his light wind sword. Easily stabbing mercenary after mercenary in the throat, his sword moved with a nimble grace, fast enough for the regular saints and great saints to die without knowing it. Each one of them crumpled to the ground as they were killed. Although it was Jian Shen against over 100 men, the difference between the two sides was far too vast. So it had become a massacre for the Zhou mercenaries. In fact, for Jian Shen, it was almost as if the Zhou mercenaries weren't even fighting back since they were utterly incapable of capturing Jian Shen. Under the quick sword of Jian Shen, another 2 men met a quick death. Then in the time it took for one small breath, 8 people died to his sword. The battle lasted for another 5 small breaths before the group of 100 men instantly fell down to half its original numbers. The scarred man looked on at the massacre Jian Shen had made with a dazed expression. In just a matter of a few dozen seconds, Jian Shen had managed to kill 50 people inconceivably quick. What frightened the scarred man was how fast and efficiently Jian Shen had killed those men. Jian Shen continued to flow through each opponent smoothly like water. With each movement he made, another man fell to his sword with blood flying through the air. The floor alone had begun to form a pool of mixed blood from each of Jian Shen's victims. The merciless slaughter continued for a little longer as each Zhou mercenary cried out a battle cry continuously. Unsurprisingly, not a single one of them who exchanged a blow with Jian Shen had cried out in pain, since Jian Shen had cut apart their throats and rendered them speechless. Some of them weren't even able to feel the pain before losing their life. After another 10 breaths, Jian Shen had finally come to a stop and ended the one-sided massacre. At this moment, the entire courtyard was littered with the dead bodies of the Zhou mercenaries. There had been 100 of them, but after Jian Shen was done with them, all 100 of them were scattered on top of each other. Each one of the bodies had a single wound to their neck that let blood flow freely onto the ground, dyeing it a crimson red. The stench of the blood began to waft up into the air and would definitely make anyone vomit if they smelled it. By now, it was only the scarred man with a dozen other men right behind him that were left. All of them had sluggish looks on their faces as if they couldn't believe what had just transpired. There used to be 100 people. However, in a short moment, all of them were killed thoroughly by a youth that was no older than 20 years old. Even though they had personally witnessed this shocking massacre, they still couldn't believe it. The 11 people were terribly frightened where they stood without a single voice escaping from them. Jian Shen stared at the remaining people with a level expression before a merciless grin slowly replaced it. The first 100 people he had killed were only those of the saint and great saint level. But these remaining people were the pillars of the Zhou mercenaries who were all at least the level of a saint master. Without sparing any time, Jian Chen's figure went into motion as he flew toward the remaining dozen people. The light wind sword flew in a silver arc and effortlessly stabbed into the throats of two of the men, claiming the lives of two Saint Masters with ease. Now that Jian Chen had made a breakthrough into the great Saint Master level, these Saint Masters were nothing more than weak ants in his eyes. Even his sword would be unavoidable to a Saint Master. Jian Chen didn't have any intentions of letting a single Zhou mercenary escape. After killing two of the Saint Masters at lightning-fast speed, Jian Chen's light wind sword once again turned into a silver-white blur, enveloping the remaining people with his sword chi. PCH. 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 The light wind sword came down another 3 times and in an instant, 3 Saint Masters had their throats pierced. Up until this moment, the remaining few Saint Masters had been paralyzed. Each one of them then regained themselves with a look of abject horror and instantly moved to dodge Jian Chen in a strange attempt to distract him. Stop, stop. If there's something you want to say it quickly. The scarred man cried out to Jian Chen in a frantic manner as he dodged to the side. Right now his expression was no longer that of shock, instead, horror and desperation adorned it. Jian Chen stopped his massacre for a brief moment before staring at the few Saint Masters. Speak then, where is your captain? In the restaurant, Jian Chen had figured out that the captain of the Zhou Mercenaries was a great Saint Master expert. Within this group of people, he had realized that not a single one of them were at that level. With this situation, that could only mean that the captain was not here. That wouldn't do, since Jian Chen wanted to kill the captain. The scarred man let out a deep breath as he tried to calm his nerves. Unsuccessfully, he stared at Jian Chen and spoke with a trembling voice. Brother, I don't know what our Zhou Mercenaries captain has done to offend you to the point that you want to eradicate us all. Compared to before, the scarred man's attitude had taken a complete turn. Jian Chen's cold gaze turned even darker as he stepped toward the scarred man. Each step he took made the man even more nervous before Jian Chen said, I'll ask you one last time, where is your captain? Jian Chen had not bothered to pay attention to the other's question. Seeing how Jian Chen was approaching him, the man took a few steps back with some hesitation. Wherever the captain is, I know not. Hearing that, Jian Chen's eyes flashed coldly and cared no more for the scarred man. Instantly appearing in front of him, the light wind sword stabbed straight for the man's throat. The man's face suddenly dropped as he tried to fly backward. In an instant a sword appeared in his hand as he attempted to block the light wind sword. However, before he could even bring his sword into position, the light wind sword had already approached his neck and buried itself deeply within. The bloody tip protruded through the back of his neck. Seeing that the scarred man stood no chance against Jian Chen, the remaining few Saint Masters' faces all paled in fright from the domineering power Jian Chen had revealed. Run away. Find the captain, he's the only one that can avenge us. One Saint Master cried out in terror as he ran for the gates to Wake City. Right, find the captain, quickly. The other Saint Masters suddenly came to their senses. Without further hesitation, they each threw each other behind in their attempts to escape from the place. Jian Chen slowly pulled the bloody light wind sword from the dead scarred man. Looking at the escaping Saint Masters, he sneered before following them on their way out. Not too long after Jian Chen had left, the group of people that had followed him from the restaurant suddenly appeared in a huge crowd at the Zhou Mercenaries headquarters. However, just as this group of people saw the terrifying sight that lay beyond the broken gates, all their faces grew alarmed as they couldn't believe what they were seeing. From the time it took Jian Chen to enter the headquarters to when he left, hadn't even been over 10 breaths of time. In such a short amount of time, the headquarters had been littered with corpses of over 100 men. Such a sight would astound anyone. Chapter 213, Zhou Clan. Although Wake City was on the verge of being besieged by magical beasts, no one within Wake City was feeling any sort of dread or panic. The only difference was that the atmosphere in the city was a little heavy, but the citizens continued on with their business as usual. The magical beast mountain range was very close to Wake City, about 20 kilometers away. It towered over the Class 3 city that was highly experienced repelling waves of magical beast attacks. Even the city walls were equivalent to walls in a Class 1 city. Every single time magical beasts attacked the city, this small Class 3 city would always stand straight and tall. So those who were born and raised in this city were all used to the besiegement of the magical beasts. Within Wake City, the city lord had announced the news as well as posted the mission within the mercenary union. Practically every single mercenary had congregated within Wake City in preparation for the magical beast's attack. Nowadays, the streets within Wake City had more people than ever. If one were to look closely, one would notice most of the people walking the streets were mercenaries who were also making most of the racket. Out of the way I said. Out of the way. At this moment, a loud and frantic voice rang through the streets, causing everyone to turn their heads. They could only see a few middle-aged men barreling through the streets desperately. Each one of them wore different colored robes, but the insignia on their chests were identical. Whoever was unfortunate enough to block their way was unceremoniously pushed aside, causing them to earn the ire and curses of everyone. Some had grown violent, and the stronger men began to bring out their saint weapons as if looking to make them pay for their crime. Look at their badges, aren't they members of the Zhou Mercenaries? They're really the Zhou Mercenaries. Why are they in such a panicked state? It's almost as if they're being chased by someone. When a few of the people on the streets recognized the badges on the men, they were all surprised to see this strange event. Even the men that had been pushed out of the way by them suppressed their furious wrath and saint weapons the moment they heard that the group was from the Zhou Mercenaries. The captain of the Zhou Mercenaries, Zhou Yun, was a great saint master. This type of matter was not a small one within Wake City. After all, Wake City was a Class 3 city. A great saint master was considered to be the apex of experts within the city. Now that the Zhou Mercenaries had a great saint master within their ranks, their identity had skyrocketed to become one of the strongest groups in the city. Now, not many people would dare to offend the Zhou Mercenaries. These Zhou Mercenaries members ran through the streets at a fast pace until they finally disappeared within the crowd. On the road, they attracted the flabbergasted eyes of the nearby bystanders. As soon as the Zhou Mercenaries disappeared within the crowd, a white light suddenly shot through the crowd and chased after the Zhou Mercenaries members from behind. What's happening? Could the Zhou Mercenaries have run into trouble? That can't be. Right now the Zhou Mercenaries have a great saint master and also have the close support of the Zhou clan. Who could possibly be looking for trouble with the Zhou Mercenaries? From this, everyone on the streets began to think up random conjecture as they shared every possibility with each other. The Zhou Mercenaries continued with their mad and desperate dash for another 10 kilometers, where they finally reached a grand-looking mansion with a large 4 meters tall and 6 meters wide gate. On top of the large gate, a wide board had the words, Zhou Clan, written in dazzling gold words. Just from this alone, those who looked at the sign could tell that the owner of this house had a considerable amount of financial power and was quite strong physically. Let us in, we are a part of the Zhou Mercenaries with important business with the captain. A Zhou mercenary member called out frantically to the guards standing right next to the gate. When the guard saw the group of people rushing at him with such frantic looks on their faces, he knew that something was happening and didn't dare to obstruct them any longer, allowing them passage inside. Within the Zhou clan's residence in a grand hall, a single 70-year-old elder sat at the first position of a table with 10 other members nearby. The elder stared at a heavily armored figure nearby. The man was sturdy and was calm. Before the elder laughed, Commander Duoli, you need not to worry about this. Our Zhou clan has towered over the rest of Wake City for 10 years, it can be said that Wake City is our hometown now. This matter of the magical beast wave will indeed have our Zhou clan ready to fight. We will give it our all to defend Wake City. The armored middle-aged man gave a small smile as he cupped his hands together, with the words of the Zhou clan's elder, this commander is relieved. With the Zhou clan added to our forces, then our victory is assured, and since Sire Zhou Yun is now a great saint master, this is truly a celebration to be joyous about. The elder's face had a gratified smile on it after hearing those words, but he spoke modestly, Commander Duoli gives too much praise. Zhou Yun's cultivation talent is too outstanding, we've just spent many coins on monster cores which allowed him to cultivate and break through into the great saint master realm smoothly. The elder then looked at another man sitting far down the table. This man wore a blue-colored robe with his hair tied up in a whip-like fashion that hung over his shoulders. His eyes had a calm yet powerful look. This man was the leader of the Zhou mercenaries, Zhou Yun. Just as the elder finished talking, a loud frantic cry came bursting in from the hallways outside the room. Captain, Captain. Something terrible has happened, truly a terrible matter. As soon as the voice was heard, suddenly, a man with the Zhou mercenary insignia on his chest came bursting into the room with a few other men behind him panting wildly. These men's sorrowful appearances caused everyone that noticed it to furrow their eyebrows in surprise. Some had even looked at them with an annoyed face. Impudence! Do you not see that we are having a meeting here? Who let you in? Do you not remember our rules, our system of conduct? Clan leader, something bad has happened. An extremely strong and terrifying man has declared revenge on us. Our 100-member-strong Zhou mercenaries has been eradicated and only the ones here are left alive. The leader of the group cried out to the elder. Hearing that, everyone in the vicinity grew alarmed. What? Did you just say that you are all that are left of the Zhou mercenaries? Zhou Yun spoke with a serious face. Immediately standing up, he strode on over to the man with a loud shout. Yes, Captain. It is only us that are alive. The mercenary shouted miserably with a small tremble to his voice. No one else? Zhou Yun's eyes instantly grew dark. Everyone is. Everyone is dead, Captain. Another mercenary said. Hearing this, a great amount of killing intent flowed out from Zhou Yun as he growled furiously, who would dare, bang. Before Zhou Yun could finish his statement, the large gates to the Zhou clan's mansion blew open with a great sound before breaking into 4 different pieces that flew into the courtyard. Chapter 2:14. The Zhou clan's brave rush. This large sound stunned everyone. However, they quickly regained their bearings and their expressions grew dark. No one present was a mediocre person and had a decent sense of hearing. Just from hearing the door break into pieces, they knew that a man had done it. Impudence! The clan leader of the Zhou mercenaries slammed his hand onto the armrest of his throne, causing a large splitting sound to ring through the room. Who dares to be so audacious? To cause trouble for our Zhou clan? Everyone, with me. Let us go see who dares tread on this sacred ground. The Zhou clan leader stood up with a dark expression. As he stomped out of the room toward the courtyard with a furious mood, everyone else followed. The Zhou clan leader brought the group to the entrance of the courtyard where 10 guards of the Zhou clan were already stationed. From every corner, more and more guards began to pour in and increase their numbers constantly. Move out of the way, the clan leader is here. A sharp-eyed guard cried the moment he saw the clan leader come toward them. Like water, the crowd of guards immediately made way for the clan leader to walk through. But even after that, the entire area was filled to the brim with Zhou clan guards. Surrounded by the Zhou clan guards was a single youth that was around the age of 20. The youth wore a white robe that seemed to be of an inferior material, but that did nothing to hide the characteristics of this youth. The youth was exceptionally handsome, and had pale skin that emphasized his facial features. Although his expression was neutral, there was a charm in his eyes that would make any female that saw it go crazy. The moment they saw this 20-year-old youth, the Zhou clan leader's glare flashed with a cold look as he spoke out. Who are you to dare cause trouble for our Zhou clan? Do you think our Zhou clan is an easy target to bully? Jian Shen returned the leader's stare with a calm one as he spoke to the elder. And who are you? Humph. Seeing the look of disdain from Jian Shen, the frost in the Zhou clan leader's eyes intensified. This old man is the leader of the Zhou clan, Zhou Budong. Oh, so you're the leader of the Zhou clan? Jian Shen had a faint smile on his face as he cupped his hands together with a false smile. This one is called Jian Shen. I've come to find a person. As long as the Zhou clan leader brings out this person, I will leave. Zhou Budong laughed angrily, looking for someone? Huh, brat, you need a lesson on knowing who your superiors are. To dare demand something from the leader of the Zhou clan. Brat, within Wake City, the amount of people that would dare demand something from the Zhou clan are nearly none. You are the first. Jian Shen laughed as well. It would appear that I should be happy about this. Zhou clan leader, I won't mince words with you. Do you know whether or not the leader of the Zhou mercenaries, Zhou Yun, is here? I am Zhou Yun. The moment Jianchen spoke, Zhou Yun walked forward from the crowd with eyes that emanated a killing intent that felt as if he was a hungry wolf waiting to devour Jianchen. I've heard you've slaughtered my Zhou mercenaries in an instant, is that true? It is. Hearing those two words, Zhou Yun couldn't hold himself back. His eyes flashed dangerously as the killing intent flew out at Jianchen. Instantly, a long spear appeared within Zhou Yun's hand as he shouted, "You dare destroy the mercenary group I spent 20 years creating? Youngster, it matters not who you are, I, Zhou Yun, will make you live a life worse than death and suffer from the eternal torment of the world. With this, I will take revenge for my fallen brothers." A large amount of saint force flew from his saint weapon as he stabbed at Jianchen. Jianchen revealed a cold smile as the light wind sword appeared in his right hand and flew out at the same time as the spear. Ding! The light wind sword carried a large amount of sword chi as it struck against Zhou Yun's spear firmly. A large sound rang out into the air as the two saint weapons made contact with each other. In every possible direction a large shockwave spread out so dense that it could be seen by the naked eye. Along with the pulse of saint force, a large cloud of dust was kicked up and surrounded the area. At the same time, the weaker guards of the Zhou clan were forced back a few steps because of it. Sword met spear as Jianchen and Zhou Yun were locked in a stalemate. Immediately in between the two a white-colored glow appeared as the light wind sword suddenly shot toward Zhou Yun's throat. This sword was unbelievably fast, so much so that before Zhou Yun could react, it was already less than a foot away from his throat. Zhou Yun's face suddenly grew startled, but because of his countless years of battle experience, he remained calm under pressure and instantly kicked backward. At the same time the long spear in his hand sprung back to him and went to block the sword. Ding! Just as Zhou Yun brought his spear in front of himself, the light wind sword slashed across the spear, transmitting a large amount of power through it. The power continued to transmit from the spear to Zhou Yun and forced him to stagger a few steps back. Although this wasn't a fatal attack, Zhou Yun's face was suddenly wet with perspiration as it went pale with shock. What a fast sword! It was so fast, I was almost too slow to dodge it. Even though Zhou Yun was a great saint master, it hadn't been a long time since he made that breakthrough. He was only a primary great saint master, and compared to Jianchen, Zhou Yun's strength was comparable to a peak saint master at most. Then, as Zhou Yun was pondering to himself and tried to stabilize his backward momentum, a white light suddenly flew at him with an even faster speed than the first one. In a split second, the light wind sword had reached the throat of Zhou Yun. This moment, Zhou Yun could only look at the sword in shock due to how fast the sword was, instantly realizing that he had no time to react. Suddenly, just as Zhou Yun resigned himself to death, a large broadsword flew out to come across Zhou Yun's body. At the same time, Zhou Yun could feel two elderly but powerful arms grab him around the shoulders and pull him away from his death. Ding! A screeching sound could be heard as the sword that was originally meant to pierce into Zhou Yun's throat stabbed against the horizontally flying sword. The owner of this sword had unexpectedly been the leader of the Zhou clan, Zhou Butong. However, the feeling that Zhou Butong was giving off felt as if he was a sword that had yet to be unsheathed. It was only after this moment that people felt that the sword was now being unveiled and was ready to strike. Looking coldly at the newly arrived Zhou Butong, Jianchen gave a small smile. Zhou clan leader, seeing you right now, it would appear that you wish to bring the Zhou clan into this. Chapter 215, Participation of the Zhou clan. At this moment, the Zhou clan leader Zhou Butong's face was exceptionally grim. Staring at Jianchen with a gaze that had lost the original glare of disdain, he no longer thought Jianchen was just a youth. Now, Zhou Butong thought him to be an opponent of an equal level and didn't dare to belittle him any longer. That was because of Jianchen's first two strikes allowing Zhou Butong to determine Jianchen to be very strong. If he hadn't made a move, then his son Zhou Yun would have been killed. Furthermore, when he made a move to protect his son, he had moved at the fastest speed he could muster. Jianchen's 3 sword strikes were something that he couldn't afford to underestimate, and the third strike had caused him to act out of necessity. Secretly, Zhou Budong had felt shock within his heart. Jianchen couldn't have been any older than 20, but for such a young man he had such a disproportionate amount of strength. Due to his accumulated amount of experience over the years, he could guess that Jianchen had no major person backing him up. Yet, he couldn't believe that a youth with no major power behind him would be able to have the strength of a great Saint Master. Zhou Budong stared evenly at Jianchen. I don't know which clan my young friend here is a part of and what grievances you have with my son Zhou Yun, but perhaps this is a misunderstanding. Whether or not this is a misunderstanding, my heart already knows the truth. The past I will not speak of, but today I will definitely kill Zhou Yun. If your Zhou clan stays out of this, then naturally nothing will happen to you, but if your Zhou clan decides to take part, then I will eradicate it as well. Jianchen's voice was calm on the surface, but there was a hint of a domineering tone to it. Yet, as the Zhou clan heard the words of Jianchen, their expressions grew dark and the air around them began to fill with an impressive amount of killing intent. Even as the atmosphere grew tense, Jianchen's attitude did not change at all from his cold demeanor. Zhou Budong's face grew darker as well, but nonetheless, he stared at Jianchen and said, "You speak far too loud, my friend. I can admit, your strength is quite decent, but for you to try and eradicate the entirety of my Zhou clan? You truly think that my Zhou clan is like mud? Zhou clan leader, it would appear that Zhou Yun is someone you are determined to protect." Jianchen's voice gradually grew colder as his eyes flashed with a biting cold killing intent. Zhou Budong readied his own sword. "If you wish to claim my son's life, then let's see your reason why." Wait a moment. Just as the two sides ready to fight, a loud voice called out. Looking to the source of the voice, both Jianchen and Zhou Budong realized that it belonged to a heavily armored middle-aged man. The armored man walked forward before stopping in between Jianchen and Zhou Budong. With a small smile to Jianchen, he said, "Fellow brother, could your grievances with the Zhou clan be resolved with a small talk? If there is a possibility of making a big problem turn into no problem, then that would be for the best. There is no need for the two of you to fight. The magical beast wave is coming to Wake City soon, and so this is the moment where the entire city must unite as one. For the sake of unison, please talk it out. After all, this magical beast wave endangers the lives of tens of thousands of ordinary citizens. Fellow brother, please think about it for a moment." The man tried to soothe Jianchen's fighting spirit. Jianchen looked at the armored man with a calm gaze before asking him a simple question, "Who are you?" Despite the rude way Jianchen had asked, the armored man was not angry. Instead, he gave a faint smile and said, "I am called Duoli, I am the commander of Wake City's defensive soldiers and the one in charge of them." "So you are Commander Duoli, Commander Duoli, please step back. This is a matter between me and them and I do not wish to involve you." Jianchen replied. Commander Duoli let out a breath of air. "Brother, these are not peaceful times, could you not sit down and talk this out?" Jianchen shook his head calmly. "There is nothing to talk about, Commander Duoli, please step back." "Commander Duoli, this isn't something you should get involved in. This ignorant youth wants to destroy my Zhou clan, then I will let him know the true power of my Zhou clan. Furthermore, the mercenary group my son has shed blood and tears for has been destroyed by this youth. Speak, do you truly think there is room for discussion still?" Zhou Budong spoke as he looked at Jianchen with the urge to kill. "Arrogant child, let me test you for myself." Suddenly, Zhou Budong's figure flew toward Jianchen with his sword bursting with saint force ready to split open Jianchen as it flew down toward his head. Jianchen's gaze frosted over as his light-wind sword flew out to block the sword. Seeing that the situation had blown out of control, Commander Duoli narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, "Wake City is on the verge of being besieged by a magical beast wave, and although this youth is very young, his strength is at the great Saint Master level. With a strength like this, it is absolutely crucial that these two sides aren't harmed. If I want to resolve the grudge between these two, I need the city lord." With that, Commander Duoli didn't hesitate anymore and left the area headed toward the city lord's manor in a desperate rush. While he ran, Jianchen was left within the Zhou clan's courtyard to fight against the entire Zhou clan. Zhou Baotong was a great Saint Master who had reached the peak level 20 years ago. The distance left before reaching Earth Saint Master level was merely a step. It was only because of the danger in making the breakthrough to Earth Saint Master that caused him to stay at the Great Saint Master level. So for the past 20 years, he remained at the peak Great Saint Master level and refined his strength. The light wind sword in Jian Chen's hand danced in the air as it flew at Zhou Baotong. Its movements flowed into each other, stroke by stroke, causing Zhou Baotong to be shocked by Jian Chen's impeccable sword technique. He had to completely devoted himself to his fighting and used the full extent of the power of a great Saint Master. Despite that, he was still having trouble defending against Jian Chen, who seemed to be on an equal level to him. However, while Jian Chen continued to stab at Zhou Baotong's sword, he had also begun to take away the lives of the Zhou clan guards one by one. Chapter 216, Great War of the Zhou clan. The fight continued for some time as the guards from the Zhou clan gained 20 casualties. Despite that, Zhou Baotong's face did not change. These guards were men that he had hired with money and had no true affiliation with the Zhou clan. So as those guards died, Zhou Baotong didn't care at all and continued on. Everyone forward, whoever can injure him, I will reward them with 1,000 purple coins. If you can capture him, then I will offer 10,000 purple coins. Zhou Baotong ordered. When there was a hefty reward, there would be brave people. Upon hearing the rich treasure, all the guards' eyes heated up with greed as they charged with no regard for their lives toward Jian Chen. Their saint weapons flew at him one by one in hopes of injuring him instead of capturing him. Jian Chen stared at the incoming saint weapons with a cold glare before his light wind sword exploded into action. With his sword flying about everywhere, in an instant, the light wind sword slammed against each saint weapon far too fast for anyone to see. Ding! 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 Following the dense concentration of saint weapons smashing against each other, a good amount of the saint weapons suddenly broke in half. The moment the guards whose saint weapons broke, had their faces instantly turned pale as they spat out a mouthful of blood and immediately fell to the ground, signifying the death of at least 3 guards. The saint weapons shared a symbiotic relationship with their owners. The moment a saint weapon was injured, their owners would be injured as well. When the saint weapons broke under a serious situation, in the best case scenario, the person would be unable to cultivate and be left as a cripple. In the worst case, they would die. Those who had their saint weapons snapped in half meant that their saint weapons were completely destroyed. Those who didn't die would wake up and begin their life anew as cripples. However, the allure of the heavy reward offered by Zhou Baotong had poisoned the minds of the guards. Even after seeing their comrades fall, they were not frightened in the least. Instead, their ferocity had intensified now that they had less people that could possibly snatch away their prize. After all, it was 1,000 purple coins. For these normal saints and great saints, this was enough for them to live in peace and luxury for their entire lifetime. 1,000 purple coins was something they would never actually be able to earn in their lifetime. The white-robed Jian Chen continued to fly through the group of guards with his light wind sword continuing to flash with each swing. The Zhou clan guards fell to the ground one by one. In the beginning, there had been 100 guards, but after this short amount of time, only half of them remained. The Zhou clan leader Zhou Baotong had already retreated away from the fight with a serious face as he observed the one-sided killing which Jian Chen gladly participated in. Clan leader, this man is unbelievably strong and his sword is too fast. It's hard for even us to follow, so these guards simply have no chance to dodge it. If things go on like this, then I'm afraid these guards will soon be completely wiped out. A middle-aged man cried out from behind Zhou Baotong. Zhou Baotong's eyes flashed with a cold glint as he said, with him using his sword so fast, his saint force will be used up quickly. Since just earlier he destroyed the Zhou mercenaries, there is no way for his saint force to have recovered that fast. Let him first use up his saint force on these guards. I don't believe that his saint force will still have such an endless supply after this. Zhou Lianyan, hurry up and bring the King Tiger squad here. This time the enemy cannot be underestimated. I cannot say for certain, but the life or death of our Zhou clan is on the line. We must act accordingly with all our strength. Yes, clan leader. After being commanded, he immediately dashed to the back of the Zhou clan courtyards. After the brutal massacre of the Zhou clan guards, there was only 10 guards remaining and another 100 or so lying on the ground with their blood pouring out all over the place, staining the marble floors red. Jian Chen's body flickered as he reappeared behind the 10 guards. With the hazy glow of the light wind sword, he slashed through their necks and cleanly destroyed their ability to breathe and live. At this moment, every single guard from the Zhou clan had been completely wiped out. All that remained within the courtyard was Zhou Batong and a dozen members of the clan. Just after Jian Chen had slashed through the throats of the 10 now dead guards, an ear-whistling sound could be heard as a strong gale of wind flew at him from behind. Before the biting cold gale of wind could press against Jian Chen's shoulder, his face grew unnaturally serious before quickly turning around and bringing the light wind sword up to protect himself. Kang! A large sword suddenly fell against Jian Chen's sword, transmitting a large amount of power from sword to sword, which pushed Jian Chen back a few steps. Following his backward momentum, Jian Chen's feet allowed himself to fly backward as if to get rid of the excess force driving him back. Ha! A thunderous shout exploded outward as Zhou Batong didn't let Jian Chen have a single second to breathe before sending another sword strike at him. After that, the dozen members from the Zhou clan began to pull out their saint weapons before charging at him as well. Among the group was the relieved and recently fresh great saint master Zhou Yun, the captain of the Zhou Mercenaries. Jian Chen didn't bother to hesitate and brought down his light wind sword onto the sword of Zhou Batong with an extremely large amount of sword chi. As the two saint weapons collided in midair, another strong ripple of saint force erupted from the epicenter and flew out in every direction, washing over the grass and the other Zhou clan members. A strike after, the strong amount of saint force had forced Jian Chen to retreat another 6 steps while Zhou Batong flew back 3 steps. Before waiting for Jian Chen to stabilize himself, the dozen Zhou clan members rushed at him with powerful saint force erupting from their saint weapons ready to slash at Jian Chen. Zhou Yun himself dashed behind Jian Chen and with his long spear acting almost as if it was a serpent, striking toward him. Chapter 217, Destruction of the Zhou clan. Jian Chen's foot stomped across the ground and flew off to his side 2 meters with an ungodly speed, dodging the blows of the men waiting for him. These dozen men were fast in their own right. After missing, their hands didn't stop and immediately chased after Jian Chen. Zhou Yun's spear brought about a large amount of saint force that turned it into a white spear of lightning that flew toward Jian Chen's heart. It was a blow that Zhou Yun had put all his strength into. Humph! Jian Chen's mouth curled into a disdainful sneer. Although these dozen men looked to be incomparably ferocious, they were nothing more to Jian Chen than a small amount of pressure that wouldn't even amount to making Jian Chen take them seriously. His hand shook abruptly as the light wind sword stabbed forward with a large amount of sword chi sharpening the sword. In a split second, the light wind sword had lashed out 10 times and bashed against the saint weapons that were coming at him still. Despite the light wind sword looking like a stick in comparison to the dozen saint weapons, the tiny sword that belonged to Jian Chen contained an extraordinarily strong amount of power that the Zhou clan members could not compare to. As soon as the weapons made contact with each other, the Zhou clan members' saint weapons were forced away. The faces of the Zhou clan members suddenly went slack as they looked at the light wind sword in surprise. They hadn't thought that such a small sword would be able to contain so much power. The very moment both sides made contact, their saint weapons had actually transmitted enough force from the blow to paralyze their arms momentarily. Even as the men were in their shocked states, a white glow surrounded the light wind sword as it flew at an unbelievably fast speed before streaking across the necks of the Zhou clan members before they could even react. The dozen Zhou clan members immediately went rigid as their necks suddenly sprayed blood from their wounds. The amount of blood that poured out of their necks had then become a fountain that took away the very life that sustained their bodies. Among the group, aside from the great Saint Master Zhou Yun who had narrowly escaped death, the other dozen members had their throats slashed apart by Jian Chen's light wind sword. A single strike had killed a dozen men. Jian Chen didn't cease his actions there. With another flicker of his body, he immediately leaped at Zhou Yun to strike. Seeing Jian Chen come rushing at him, Zhou Yun immediately went pale with fright. After exchanging blows with Jian Chen once, he already understood that he wasn't an opponent that could fight Jian Chen and would be unable to survive against him for long. Zhou Yun simply wasn't a match for Jian Chen alone, and so he immediately exploded backward in an attempt to retreat. Brat, Zhou Baotong will definitely make sure you won't leave here alive. Another shout exploded toward Jian Chen as the wrathful Zhou Baotong immediately flew in from the side in order to protect the escaping Zhou Yun. Right now, Zhou Baotong's eyes were crimson with anger. The previous dozen Zhou clan members who had died were important members of the Zhou clan and served as the backbone of it. To the Zhou clan, they were what supported the clan, and each one had the strength of a Saint Master at the least. Each one of them had a mind full of business and practically controlled the Zhou clan in its financial affairs. Now that the pillars of the Zhou clan had been killed, this was a disastrous loss for the Zhou clan. Jian Chen snorted. Your Zhou clan had the chance to not get involved, but you insisted so much on being a part of this. The Zhou clan are all but gone now. If you wish to kill me, you simply have no chance now. With that, Jian Chen didn't wait a second longer and immediately brought down the light wind sword to strike at Zhou Baotong. At that moment, a group of heavily armored men suddenly burst into the Zhou clan courtyards. This group of people had only 20 people around. Each member seemed to be disciplined as if they were born to serve the military. Even as they rushed toward Jian Chen, each step they made had been unanimous. Clan leader, the King Tiger squad has arrived. A middle-aged man cried out to Zhou Baotong from the back of the group. Hearing that, Zhou Baotong's eyes shook as he fiercely stabbed at Jian Chen once more with his great sword before looking at the group of 20, King Tiger squad, hear me. I want you to kill this brat immediately. The King Tiger squad was the result of 30 years' worth of training and expenses from the Zhou clan. From a total amount of 300 people, each one of them had been embroiled in a series of close combat examinations before leaving behind only 20 men. These 20 men were the King Tiger squad and had the strongest of the Zhou clan in it. Yes. The 20 members of the King Tiger squad instantly cried out in answer and charged straight at Jian Chen with their saint weapons at a blinding speed. Sensing the strong amount of qi radiating from the King Tiger squad, Jian Chen felt a little bit of shock in his heart. Each and every single one of these 20 members were at the very least as strong as a Saint Master. This must be the Zhou clan's trump card. Jian Chen thought to himself. Just as he thought about that, the King Tiger squad had already reached 100 meters within range of Jian Chen with their saint weapons outstretched. At the same time, Zhou Baotong and Zhou Yun both flew at Jian Chen to strike simultaneously. Jian Chen moved back a few steps in order to avoid Zhou Baotong and Zhou Yun's strike. The light wind sword disappeared in a silver blur as it slid by the saint weapons of the King Tiger squad and flew at the throats of a few of their members. Following the traces of the light wind sword, it flew toward the King Tiger squad in a silver blur and slid across their throats, taking away their lives. In a flash, the 20 men from the King Tiger squad had been completely wiped out by Jian Chen. Seeing how quickly the King Tiger squad was killed, Zhou Baotong began to tremble furiously as his wrath grew to unprecedented levels. The King Tiger squad was an especially precious treasure to him and were the elite task force that he had poured countless hours of training into. As Zhou Baotong continued to think about this newest development, the sound of Jian Chen's light wind sword emitted a bright glow of light that screeched at him as it stabbed toward his throat. Zhou Baotong immediately lifted his sword to block the thrust of the light wind sword, but as the two made contact, the force from the light wind sword caused him to move a few steps back. Jian Chen didn't give Zhou Baotong any time to relax and immediately drew closer to him. His sword moved inexplicably fast as it lashed out once more. After that, the third and fourth strike had struck out simultaneously with a speed that rivaled the first two strikes. The fifth strike. The light wind sword disappeared within a blur of light as the phantom traces of the blade overlapped with its real body. This one strike was unbelievably fast, giving Zhou Baotong no time to react. PCH. Zhou Baotong's eyes could only widen as the light wind sword surpassed what he could react against and pierced through his throat. Chapter 218. The city lord Zhou Baotong looked at the bloody light wind sword that had been stabbed through his throat with a look of utter disbelief. He didn't possibly think that a 20-year-old youth would be able to kill him so easily. Right now, Zhou Baodong couldn't believe how strong he was. He thought he was in a dream. The events that had occurred in this hour had developed far too fast for him to take in. Just earlier, he had been the leader of the high and mighty Zhou clan discussing the matters of a magical beast wave with the Wake City Defensive Guard commander. But now, not even half an hour after that, his Zhou clan had been completely destroyed. Zhou Baodong heaved a heavy sigh in unwillingness before closing his eyes and allowing his elderly body to hit the ground slowly. Jian Shen stared at Zhou Baodong's fall to the ground coldly without any emotion. Thanks to the memories of his previous incarnation, his determination had been rather resolute. Even if he were to massacre many people, he wouldn't be affected too much. Slowly, the light wind sword was pulled out from Zhou Baodong's neck as Jian Shen turned to look for Zhou Yun. However, his face darkened as he looked at the bodies that littered the floors of the courtyard. Yet Zhou Yun was nowhere to be found. At this, Jian Shen's eyes narrowed, so he ran away. As he spoke, Jian Shen looked at the dead bodies on the floor before finally looking at the space belt on Zhou Baodong's waist. With 2 steps forward, Jian Shen had grabbed at the space belt. Zhou Baodong was the leader of a clan after all. The items within his possession would surely be expensive. Just outside the corner of Jian Shen's eye, he noticed a single thread on Zhou Baodong's neck. Hidden by the blood and cloth of Zhou Baodong, Jian Shen had then finally found the secret the corpse was hiding. This hidden string was almost invisible to the naked eye. It had only been revealed after the blood dyed the string a shiny red, allowing Jian Shen to discover it. Jian Shen slowly parted the cloth away from Zhou Baodong's bloody neck to reveal a ring tied to a piece of string that led down to his stomach. The moment Jian Shen found the space ring, his eyes began to sparkle as he cried out in surprise, "This is a space ring." There was a large amount of happiness in his voice. This space ring had been personally hidden and worn by Zhou Baodong. With such a secret, there would definitely be a hidden treasure within this. Pulling at the hidden space ring away from Zhou Baodong's neck, Jian Shen was exceptionally happy. Although he hadn't yet looked at the items within, he stored it within his own space ring. He didn't have time to look at it for now, so he immediately rushed out of the courtyards. The moment Jian Shen had exited the courtyards, he immediately heard the sound of voices of a few men who had heard the fight take place in the courtyards. Everyone's faces were full of shock as they looked at the Zhou courtyard. Their unwavering gazes stared at the horrifying view, as if they couldn't believe what had just happened. The Zhou clan had been completely destroyed in an instant. "Out of the way, out of the way. Everyone get out of the way." At this moment, an extremely loud sound cried out from behind the group. The dense group of people standing near the Zhou clan courtyards immediately saw a group of heavily armored men with weapons who were running straight through them. Isn't that the city lord of Wake City? I didn't think he would come here as well." From the midst of everyone, a group of heavily armored men walked forward. One man in particular wearing a black robe stood tall. His eyes shined with a purpose as sharp as his sword. From the perspective of a regular person, the man's skin resembled that of copper, and combined with his stature, the man looked rather intimidating. This was the city lord of Wake City, Yunli. Under the protection of the city guards, the city lord of Wake City, Yunli continued to walk into the Zhou clan courtyards. Stepping through the gates, he could only see the large amount of bodies littered about. Yunli walked forward a few more steps before coming to a stop as he looked at the corpses with a heavy expression. Finally, his eyes landed upon the dead body of Zhou Baodong before his face became like stone. "Ai!" Yunli cried out as he closed his eyes sadly. Standing right next to him was the commander of Wake City's defensive guards, Duoli. Sighing, Duoli couldn't believe what he was seeing before speaking out with a dejected tone, "Lord, we came a moment too late." At this, Yunli once more opened his eyes as he stared at the multiple bodies strewn across the ground. Finally suppressing the sadness within his heart, he only then realized that every single man had a wound on their throats. It was only just that one wound, and Zhou Baodong was no exception either. Duoli, the one that came here to declare revenge on the Zhou clan, was a single 20-year-old youth, correct? Yunli stared at Commander Duoli with a cold face. "Yes, my lord." From his appearances, his age was estimated to be around 20 years old, an exceptionally young face. Duo Li spoke out frantically. Hearing this, Yunli went silent as he began to think. So the Zhou clan has been destroyed. This has weakened our defensive troops for the magical beast wave by a large amount, yet with this young expert in our Wake City, if we can rope him in, we will be able to defend ourselves against the magical beasts with ease. The Lord is quite wise, your subordinate here thought of the same thing. Duo Li spoke out with a serious expression. Come, he hasn't gone too far yet. Let us chase after him. Yunli began to walk even faster as he led Duo Li and the group of guards out of the courtyard. Afterward, Yunli began to chase after the bloody footprints Jian Shen had left behind. Jian Shen slowly walked through the streets with furrowed eyebrows as he thought to himself. He had no idea how he would find Uncle Kendall's family. Wake City wasn't too small, but there was still a few 100,000 people. Just finding 2 people within a population like that was no simple task. Plus, right now Jian Shen couldn't even guarantee that Uncle Kendall's family was still living in Wake City or if they had moved out of the city. To try and find the family would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Uncle Kendall, don't worry. No matter what, I will find your family and take care of them. I will definitely let them live happily for their entire lives. Jian Shen muttered to himself. However, before he could fully commit himself to finding Kendall's family, he first had to deal with the Tianxiong clan. In the beginning, Jian Shen had been forced to run away from Wake City thanks to the Tianxiong clan. This grudge he had for them could be said to be extremely deep and was unforgettable. He also knew that because he had killed Tianxiong Lai's son, Tianxiong Kong, their grudge against him was equally deep. This had gone far beyond what could be solved with words. One side would have to be wiped out. If he didn't deal with the Tianxiong clan, then Jian Shen wouldn't dare to try to find news about Uncle Kendall's family. Otherwise, in case the Tianxiong clan found out there was a connection between him and Kendall's family, then they would try to place him in a trap that would be inescapable and unavoidable. Chapter 219, Invitation of the City Lord. Fellow brother, please wait a moment. As Jian Shen continued walking, a sound suddenly rang out from behind, accompanied by the sounds of heavy footsteps. Jian Shen's eyes furrowed together as he turned his head, only to see a squad of heavily armored soldiers running at him quickly with 2 middle-aged men leading the squad. He looked at the armored pair of men with a suspicious look. Although he realized one of them was the man he saw not too long ago, the commander of Wake City's defensive troops, Duo Li, seeing these troops from Wake City approach him, Jian Shen couldn't help but feel suspicious. He had no idea if these men were here for the sole purpose of capturing him for his eradication of the Zhou clan. Yet while Jian Shen didn't fear these men, he wanted to find Uncle Kendall's family within Wake City. It was for this reason that he wasn't yet willing to fight with the local ruler of Wake City. Fellow brother, please wait. Seeing Jian Shen slow down, Duo Li called out to him once more as he urged his group to go faster. Jian Shen looked at Duo Li and his group of men next to him before asking Duo Li, Commander Duo Li, is there a problem? Commander Duo Li revealed a cordial smile as he gave a salute to Jian Shen. Fellow brother, this is the Lord of Wake City. He pointed to the middle-aged man next to him. The leader of Wake City. Jian Shen was a bit startled. Immediately looking at the Lord, he cupped his hands together. So you are the Lord of Wake City. This one is Jian Shen, excuse this one for his lack of knowledge. When the city lord had first heard that Jian Shen was a 20-year-old that had reached the Great Saint Master level, he originally thought that Jian Shen was from a clan with a strong background. At this moment, he saw neither the rich robes or the air of arrogance, making his impression of Jian Shen neither good nor bad. The Lord of Wake City cupped his hands together. So you are called Jian Shen, this one is called Yunli, brother Jian Shen. If it's not too much to ask, just call me elder brother Yunli instead of lord if that can be avoided. Seeing Jian Shen's calm face, Yunli could ascertain that whether it was his expression or the strange attitude of Jian Shen, he was no ordinary person. Despite the fact that Jian Shen was wearing mediocre quality clothing, the city lord didn't look down on Jian Shen at all. Instead, he had actually admired him for a moment. Hearing the words of Yunli, Jian Shen understood that he was trying to make friends with him. However, he still didn't dare to lower his guard, since with Yunli's strength, he couldn't afford to treat him as nothing. What might Lord Yunli want to do with this one? Jianshan spoke with a smile and a calm tone. Laughing, Yunli said, "Brother Jianshan, talking on this street is rather inconvenient. Would you mind coming with me back to my mansion?" Upon hearing those words, Jianshan's heart beat wildly as he suddenly thought about his problem with Uncle Kendall's family. Without any hesitation he complied with the lord. The mansion of the city lord was located within the heart of Wake City and was the most magnificent of buildings in the city. It was built over several square kilometers and was also the largest building. Even the mercenary union couldn't compare in size to the mansion. Around the building, many squads of men constantly patrolled around it day and night without any corner unsearched, making this building a heavily guarded area. Within the mansion's main hall, the city lord Yunli had even given up his usual seat at the throne to instead lower himself to the status of Jianshan and sat on the same level as Jianshan. As they waited, a few female waitresses began to serve them by occasionally serving them a cup of tea. The two began to chat with each other for a while before finally getting down to the main problem. "Brother Jianshan, I'm sure you realize that our Wake City is about to face off against a wave of magical beasts. This is a test of life or death for our Wake City. In the case that we fail to defend Wake City from these magical beasts, then the tens of thousands of people will become the meal of the magical beasts, so I sincerely hope that Brother Jianshan will lend his power to help defend Wake City." Yunli's smile had faded from his face and a serious look replaced it as he began to talk about this serious topic. Jianshan laughed, "The city lord truly thinks too highly of this one. I am one who walks the path of solitude. What reason would I have to protect the population of Wake City from this wave of magical beasts?" At Jianshan's words, Yunli's face tightened as he realized Jianshan had no plans on protecting Wake City from the wave of magical beasts. Before he could say something, Jianshan continued to speak, "However, since I'm already at Wake City, I may as well participate. Yet, whether or not Wake City survives the magical beast wave, this one cannot guarantee that." Jianshan's words made Yunli's eyes widen immediately as he smiled joyously. Just hearing these words from Brother Jianshan makes this one feel at ease. When Brother Jianshan joins Wake City, then our city will definitely be safe from this danger once more. At this moment, Commander Duoli suddenly burst through the doors and quickly walked toward Yunli, giving a complicated look at Jianshan. He bent down to whisper something into Yunli's ears. Seeing how the Lord of Wake City, Yunli's face grow even more serious before a look of massive confusion overtook his face, Jianshan had a complicated look on his face as well. After seeing how the gradual change in Yunli's face, Jianshan began to feel curious. Although he didn't know what words had been said to elicit such a massive change, Jianshan could begin to guess at an idea or two of what the situation might be after Yunli and Duoli had stared at him. Suddenly, Jianshan's eyes flashed as he thought to himself, could it be a matter regarding to the Tianxiong clan? Jianshan's enemies within Wake City were very few, but after seeing Yunli's face grew extremely serious, there could only be one other answer after the Zhou clan and Zhou mercenaries were ruled out. Tianxiong Lai from the Tianxiong clan knew of his name, and after Jianshan had killed his son Tianxiong Kong, there was a grudge that could never be resolved peacefully. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.